And we're going to give God every part of the territory that we try to hold on to. We're just going to ask God to have it. And I think it's been a beautiful, beautiful expression of faith this week of what this church, this new expression right here in this region, God's been doing something amazing. So I'm so honored that you're here. And I want to just say one quick action item for you. Don't miss tonight. It's kind of like the grand finale. It's kind of like the boss battle, and we're gonna win tonight. We're gonna cross over. God's gonna bring breakthrough in a new level. And so tonight 6 p.m. And I just want to say, get here early. Doors are open at 5. And please be here. But it's a great privilege. I'm so thrilled. I'm so excited. We've got the bishop here. I know he's not a bishop, but I like to call him the bishop because I learn from him. I learn from him when he's here, and I learn from him from afar. And he has the privilege to be one of the founding families of Elevation Church that is worldwide. One of the founding families. And he gets to serve as pastor. He's the right-hand guy there, and God's used him mightily to help churches like ours and hundreds of churches, if not thousands of churches globally. And so what a great privilege it is, all the way from Charlotte, North Carolina, to have Pastor Larry Bry in the house. LP, come on, Pastor, we're so honored to have you.
Man, what a joy to be with you, the 8 a.m. crowd. This is the crowd that really loves Jesus. Before we move into preaching the word today, how many of you guys are ready to hear from the word of God today? I think it'd be fitting for us to just take a moment to just honor your pastors. And what if what you didn't honor today weren't in your life tomorrow? You know, the opposite of honor is not dishonor. The opposite of honor is common and ordinary. Some of you have dishonored your wife because you let her voice become common and ordinary. Some of us have dishonored the Word of God because it carries no more weight than a Nicholas Sparks novel. And when our pastor's voice carries no more weight than a podcast or Dr. Phil, we've dishonored the man of God. It's not disdain, it's dishonor. And maybe, just maybe, what you stand in every day that's so amazing, you just kind of get used to. When I moved to North Carolina 20 plus years ago, a buddy of mine said, let's go get donuts. I'm like, why would you get donuts at midnight? I'd never heard of Krispy Kreme. I grew up in Minnesota. Donuts were hockey pucks in a styrofoam container at the grocery store. But at midnight, we go to this place and you see the red sign in the distance. You're like, what is this? You walk in, you gain 4 pounds when you open the door. And the place is packed at midnight. I'm like, well, this place is bumping. And I finally get my way up to the counter and I asked the woman working there, I said, you must love it when the hot sign's on. She goes, I hate it. Oh, you're an employee, you're not the owner. Yeah, the employee is always inconvenienced with the crowd. Because when you start working at Krispy Kreme, they let you eat all the donuts you want. Day 1, you're stuffing them down because they're so good. But by day 6, you're not even looking at them anymore. I wonder how many of you walked in on day 1 like, wow, surely God is in this place. But now a couple months later, you're hitting snooze on Sunday because it's common and ordinary. And so when we dishonor the man of God, we don't receive the word of God. And I want you to know your pastors are the real deal. Yeah. Thank you. You can keep clapping. Keep shouting them down. Here's what happens when you start. Because when you start out in this whole thing and you get up there, the first sentence is like, oh, preach, baby, Hercules. He's just... And the encouragement is so high. And you're like, but now when he preaches with excellence, excellence becomes your expectation. So excellence is here, but the encouragement starts out here. Guess what happens as you go along? The encouragement drops. And that gap gets filled in with a lot of things. And on my days where I'm struggling, that gap gets filled in with a lot of insecurity. Because you wonder, does it even matter anymore? We're not doing it to be noticed, but man, when somebody notices, it's like a wind in your sails that propels you forward. Elevate life. I charge you to not let the man of God become common and ordinary. Do not let his voice become common and ordinary. The real hero in the whole story is Pastor Carissa. He's pouring out all day long and he comes home with leftovers. You've never complained. You've shed a lot of tears in private that they've never seen. God's seen every one of them. Thank you for fighting for them when they've forgotten what they're supposed to be fighting for. Thank you for interceding on things they don't even want to look at. Thank you for being that kind of pastor. We love you, Pastor Carissa, Pastor Jeremy. We love you. Man, surely God is in this place. Hey, remain standing for just a second. I want to give you a couple verses out of Acts chapter 3. If you have your Bible, you can turn there. If you don't have a Bible, we would love to give you one. There's something about having the Word of God, the physical copy of the Word of God. And as I go along today, if God marks something in your heart, mark your Bible. We call it Christian graffiti. You can... God speaks to you, write something down in it. It's a beautiful thing.
That's right.
A couple of verses I want to give you out of Acts chapter 3. It starts with this, verses 1 and 2. It says, one day. Say one day.
One day.
That was pretty good participation, 8 a.m. That was nice. I like that. Let's try it again. Say one day.
One day.
Peter and John were going up to the temple at the time of prayer at 3 p.m. Now a man who was lame from birth was being carried to the temple gate called Beautiful, where he was put every day to beg from those going into the temple courts. And I want you to look at your favorite person in the room and announce my sermon title with some bravado from deep in your chest. Look at him and say, one day.
One day.
Look at someone else and say, one day.
One day.
Look at somebody else, give them a hug, a high five, or a handshake. After you've given out at least 13 hugs, you could be seated. Thank you, music man. For those of you that are note takers, you just wrote down one day. For those of you that are not note takers, you just wrote down one day. We often ask God, I need you to do a new thing, but he says you keep living in an old routine. I want to do something new, but you haven't written anything down in 17 years. That's why you can't remember what to get at the grocery store. Because you don't write it down. So I'm going to give you a couple awkward seconds to pull out your phone and let your fingers tap on the screen, or a piece of paper and a pencil and scratch something down. It could be a shopping.
Don't disparage your own
later,
congregation.
but just entertain your preacher boy for a second and act like what I said might just impact your life. Because God wants to speak something in your heart today. Say one day.
One day.
I love the text here because in the story, Jesus had been resurrected. Holy Spirit came. Pentecost happens. People speaking in tongues are breaking out. And now they have to go back home.
Read
after
it from the
conference.
Bible, bro.
So this is Monday morning. So what did Peter and John do on Monday morning after conference? They do what they've always done. They're going to go back to where they've always been. And all of you are going to go to your workplace, your marketplace, your school. You're going back to your normal routine tomorrow. And I want to challenge you from the text because you see two different perspectives in here. Because some of you are like, God, I need a new job. He said, no, you need a new perspective. I need a new spouse. No, you need a new heart. You need a new perspective. And you see in the text two contrasting, competing, collision course of perspectives. One day, say one day. One day, Peter and John were going to the temple gate called Beautiful. Why were they going there? Because it's what they did every day. They're going to go back to that marketplace. They're going to go back to that schoolhouse. They're going to go back to that place. Every day they're walking in. Now, one day, say one day. One day. It's not just a couple words out of a text. It's a perspective in how you see life. Oh, because we will preach it on Sunday. With God, all things are possible, Pastor Jeremy. But then you go right back to being who you were on Monday. Just walking through life. Now you see this other perspective in here in verse 2. Now a man. Now he doesn't have a name. And whenever I read the Bible, I like to give unnamed people a name. Because the man was lame from birth.
This guy is insane.
And some of you are the divorced woman. Some of you are the addict. And you've let a behavior or a decision label you. And it stripped you of your name. But God does not call you according to your condition. He calls you according to your name. He named you. He knows you. He knows
So giving
you.
him a random name doesn't, you're not
so
doing anything by doing that, bud.
You don't even hear your name
You're just
anymore.
adding superfluous detail.
It's one thing when the world doesn't know your name, but it's another thing when you forget your name. Some of you have forgot your name. Some of you have forgot you're a child of God. And so you have this dude. Let's give him a name. Any suggestions from the 8 a.m.? Charlie? We'll go with Charlie. I heard Charlie somewhere in there. Charlie was lame from birth. We know a little bit later in chapter 4, he's 40 years old. So he's lived 4 decades. 40. 40 represents season. What you see set up in the text is there's a new season about to begin. I speak over you, there's a new season about to begin. There's a new season about to begin. Now, you see in verse 2, it says, now a man, Charlie, you could write it in your Bible, was lame from birth, and he was carried to the temple gate called Beautiful, where he was put every day. Say every day. Every day. Oh, you see the collision course of here between one day. Say one day. One day. Say every day. Every day. It's an immovable force against an irresistible object. It's a collision course of one day stepping into every day. Now, picture the scene on Charlie. Every day, he was put. Peter and John went too. They went up. So you have one day. Say one day. One day. Competing against every day. Say every day. Every day. And some of you walk home from work and you walk in the house and your wife asks, how was your day today? It was just another day. You keep deferring your destiny just one day at a time. And you see this man who's so low on the food chain, he can't even get himself to the place to beg. All the other beggars got to carry him and put him at the place to beg. So here's Charlie every day, sitting in a spot right next to a temple gate called Beautiful. The contrast in this passage is amazing. One day is a place of potential and possibility. One day is a place of saying, with God, all things are possible. And what the Holy Ghost is looking for are people who walk in with a one-day perspective. Oh, is this the one day that guy's going to change his life? Who in this room is going to meet Jesus today? It is a place where you walk in. Come on, God. That's it. One day. Say one day. But I wonder if you live in it's another day. And you start walking into that job first day expecting God to do great things, but then you get punched in the mouth. And now 2 years later, you're keeping your head down, just surviving. And God wants to use you to be a miracle worker in that house, but it's not the position that's the problem. It's your perspective. You've settled for it's just another day. And look at this beggar settling for crumbs when he's been given a seat at the table. He's put there every day. And what is his job? To beg people. Begging for scraps, begging for dimes. And it was strategic at the time he would go there at 3 in the afternoon. Why? Because that's when prayer time was. And it was a part of the culture that when people would be walking in to the temple, all the fat cats with the flowing robes wanted everybody to see them walking in. Like, yeah, look at me. I'm going to church today. And they would give alms, an offering to the poor, not to bless the poor, but to look good in public. Yeah, some of y'all, you walk in, you're like, how you doing? Blessed and highly favored. Bubba, you cussed your wife out on the way to church. You got this public persona that does not align with the private spaces of your life. Because in the private spaces, I'll settle for it's just another day. And our marriage will get better another day. And that sin condition that I keep hidden so that no one would see it, that'll be for another day. And some of you are wondering right now, did I even clear my browser history from last night in case my kid grabs my phone? You're delaying your destiny just one day at a time. And you see this man every day. Charlie, every day. Monday, what does he do? He begs. Tuesday, what does he do? Wednesday, what does he do? He begs, he begs, he begs. And if I stood here long enough and talked to this microphone long enough, I would find a spot that every single one of you are so thirsty. You're a beggar. What are you begging for?
Your whole congregation is still that thirsty, sir. That's a problem on
your dad to
you.
be proud of you, but he died 7 years ago. But it didn't change the part of your heart that wanted to feel like someone was proud of you. And now you're just trying to perform to earn somebody else's approval. I wonder where you're begging at. And the only reason you take that call at midnight, lady, is because you're thirsty. He does not have in mind the things of God. You're just at a place where you're begging for someone to love you. It's the right thing that God wants to feed, just not that way. So Charlie's sitting here at the gate called Beautiful. And he's just like, anybody got any money? Anybody got any money? Anybody got any money? But he's not talking to anybody. He blends in with the background, and he just becomes a prop role player in the scene. And he's put there every day. I wonder how many times you drive by something, you don't even notice it anymore. How many times does it take? Because the first time you drive somewhere where you've never been, you need like MapQuest or your map's like, Jesus, help me get there. And you're noticing everything. But now drive it 20 times. You don't even see what's on the drive anymore. That's your kids. Some of you are so busy getting somewhere that you don't see the people that you're supposed to notice. It's your kid who just says, Dad, would you give me a hug? I wonder what say Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit. Show me the people. I'm walking by. Now write down a name. Write down a name. Is it a Charlie? And you see this one day, say one day. Peter and John, oh yeah. I wonder if they're walking in on the Monday after.
If you want your congregation to remember every day and not one day.
Who is it? Which one of you pagans are going to meet Jesus today? I don't know. Peter, Jesus got a cuss inside to him. He's probably dropping all kinds of stuff. But you see this irresistible force in the gospel. Coming up against this immovable object in every day. I wonder which one's going to win this collision course, this cage fight. Which one's going to win in this moment? But it's interesting to me. He's put by the temple gate called. Do you see the contrast in the story? Because everybody's enamored with the beautiful building, the LED walls. The temple gate, 80 foot, 90 foot tall, 60 feet wide, bronze. It's just gleamed at a distance. And right next to it is something that nobody sees. I think my Savior saw the man, Charlie, and said, that's beautiful. It's amazing, the contrast in the story here. I wonder who your Charlie is. When we started the ministry, I get to be a part of Elevation Church in Charlotte 20 years ago. We just celebrated 20 years at Elevation Church. It's amazing. It's amazing. And As I was praying for you last night, I'm like, I can't wait to come back in 17 years to celebrate your 20th anniversary. I'm serious. I speak it over you. I cannot wait to come back. And some of you will still be here faithfully serving in the house. And some of you have an aspiration, but just not a lived experience that would show you would be here in 20 years. Because you commit to an idea rather than commit to sacrifice. And when you commit to an idea, when the idea doesn't work out, you separate like deuces, I'm out. But when you commit to sacrifice, when you commit to just keep showing up, God said, I can meet you there. I can exceed all that expectations. But when people ask, like, how do you explain what happened in our ministry in 20 years? It's kind of crazy. It's just, but I'll take you back to a moment 20 years ago when we started. Here's the real power of our ministry. 20 years ago, we got down on our knees. Before we had any people, it was an unnamed church in an unnamed city in an unnamed part of the country. We had a blank page, but not a blank check. But what we had is a vision. Now, to me, personal is powerful. Because when we talk about a vision for our life, we usually see ourselves as the center of the story. When we're the lead actor in the movie, what a bad movie. What a horrible short story. My gosh, if the blessing ends with me, I'm in the shallow end of the faith pool. I blessed you to be a. And so when we started our ministry, we sat down and said, we got on our knees and we started to write names on the concrete of people we were believing for. So I wrote down Dad. I don't know if this will erase out, but I'll buy you some paint if it doesn't. I wrote down my dad. My dad passed away 7 years ago. He suffered Alzheimer's. He didn't even know who I was at the end of his life. I wrote down my mom. When we started Elevation Church, I called my mom 20 years ago, and I said, Mom, here's what we're going to do. She started crying. She said, I can't believe you would throw away your career. I'm so disappointed in you. You spent all that money and all that education, and you're throwing it away. I'm so disappointed. And I don't want you to burn in hell. Because I was raised Catholic, and leaving the Catholic Church was the unpardonable sin, and my mom is not. And then she hangs up. I'm like, well, thanks, Mom. Then I wrote down my brother Lance. I wrote down Butch. It's my brother. His real name is Leslie, but if you were a dude named Leslie, you'd go by Butch too. It's true.
That's strife for casually.
And then I wrote down Luann.
Using some anti-Catholic
Luann's
propaganda randomly in the
middle
of his
sermon. I want to ask you a simple
sermon.
question.
We should all still
Who
be
is
getting
close
along
to
as
you,
brothers and sisters in Christ,
but far from God?
regardless of our denominations.
And so for me, it's Luann. Who is it for you? Who is separated from Jesus? Who, if they died today, would spend eternity separated from him? Who's in your relational networks but outside the grace of God? Who is it? Who is it for you? Who is it for you? Who is it for you? Now put them at the temple gate called Beautiful. Who is that for you? Because my sister Luann, see, my dad was a pretty angry alcoholic, and when he would go on his rages, my sister Luann would be the one who would hide me underneath the bed because I was his favorite punching bag. And when he would get all shades of crazy, he would try to find me, but she would protect me. She hid me. And so my sister, who is close to me but far from God, I want to ask it like this. What if this were the one day she were going to come to Elevate Life Church? What if this were the one day she were going to choose to do it? We got on our knees 20 years ago, and we wrote down these names. And we said, God, may this ministry not be about me, but what you want to do through me into... All of you got a card on the way in. Pull it out. And I want to make this so personal it makes you weep. Who is close to you, but far from God? And I want you to write a name down in that thing, because when it becomes about a person, it gets really personal. Because because every night on TV we see scenes of children being abused, and it's horrible. But have you ever gotten in your car and done anything about it? Now, if they were to run a story about Mint Hill Middle School with a teacher, Mrs. Johnson, abusing her ELA class, English Language Arts class. I'm going to get in my car with my Glock at midnight. We're going to have a come to Jesus meeting because my daughter's in that class. Some of you, this church is not personal enough. And until you make it personal, you don't take it personal. Are there any single ladies in the room? Let me give some dating advice. Not that this is a dating seminar. Here's my dating advice. Don't date boys. You see, boys want to get something. Men bring something.
Okay, and on that note, if you guys want to see a church that is actually good, I have a whole review on the Union City Church. I highly recommend these guys. They are in DC and they are quite good. I have gone through a lot of their back end documents, and I highly recommend these guys. And every time that they come up, that they have all fruits of the Spirit in their sermons, and it's definitely a contrasting sermon to listen to. Everything that they do is from the standpoint of teaching love and faith and forbearance versus complaining about all of the things that you should be overcoming. That's not even how they introduce it. It's still very forward positive, and it's just a overall much better message from Union City Church. So I'm going to leave that one there. I'm not going to bother with the rest of his sermon. I would not recommend that church, and they are not going to be getting their own individual video on the channel. But if you do follow along, I have a few other videos from across the different denominations on my channel, not just Union City. That's just the one that I recommend. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and move on into a different segment that is one review for the day. I'm going to go ahead and let this one kind of start playing. And actually here, you can hear Tim explain a little bit about what we do with the church review series, actually, by doing this while I find another stream.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we continue the church review series, tracing the true vine from its biblical roots through history's revivals and the global spiritual movement shaking churches worldwide after Charlie Kirk's assassination. We've already begun in the heart of the nation and will be branching out as our example in Acts 1:8. We'll evaluate real churches through Galatians 5 fruits of the Spirit versus works of the flesh, John 15's message to stay connected, and Matthew 7's fruit test, watching how doctrines play out in life. I'll be flagging false teachings and spiting the Holy Spirit renewal to help you find congregations that honor God with true faith, love, and Christ-like living, and marking them in the chart and putting them in recommended in the scroll bar down below. If you have questions or churches you'd like to see in a future episode, drop them in the comments. Future sessions will hopefully run live so we can talk through services together and do Q&A in real time. So let's get into it. The church we're looking at today is...
Nice.
Is that all right?
That was great.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Who's this? Let's look at this church. This church is Union City Church. Alright. Union City Church is a non-denominational church located in Washington, D.C., meeting in person every Sunday, 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. in Northwest D.C., DuPont Circle. Community of people committed to practicing the way of Jesus together for the redemption of humanity and a renewal of the world.
See about that.
He's already catching on, guys.
I caught on.
No, I know.
No.
No, I know.
You guys are catching on
Hey.
to me.
What if? Guys, what if is the question of faith, and it is the question of hope. What if is the question of calling and ultimately of renewal. So let me ask you a few questions. What if God put us here in D.C. not to curse the city, but to bless the city? What if the church, not Congress, not policy, not philanthropy, became the moral imagination for renewal? What if we all came together as the church and began to attempt to solve some of the city's greatest, most systemic and enduring problems? What if every one of us individually realized that God sent you to your workplace, your apartment building, your school, your neighborhood, to be an agent of shalom, to bring blessing, to be an agent of God's common grace everywhere you go, to use your story, to use your experience, and to lean into the city and to be a part ultimately of its transformation? The people of God.
And he's not wrong. It's a little cringe, but it is a short.
Jesus' sacrificial death. Okay, this is big theology in 60 seconds. His death becomes the means to restore the divine connection from God to all of his family. Anybody who would look to Christ, who now becomes part of the family of God, we are reconnected and restored. Don't misunderstand this, church. Prayer like this, as we commune and connect with God, it is not a privilege by birth, it is a privilege by second birth. You have this communion through what is being called born again into the family of God. See, the writer of Hebrews shows us that those who are in Christ, for those who are in Christ, Jesus now opens the door and holds it open to God's presence. And you don't have to go through a priest. Come on, somebody. You don't have to wait for a holy day. You don't have to go to a sacred location or fear any kind of rejection. But through prayer and through Christ, we get to stroll right into the throne room of God.
Yep. Again, nothing theologically inaccurate about that. And certainly no fruits of the flesh there. Let's see what the ladies have to say.
Question I want you to ask yourself is, does the way you live point others to Jesus? I love Peter. He's so concerned with the witness of the believers. He says, live such good lives among the pagans that though they accuse you of doing wrong, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day that he visits us. He's saying, hey, the way that you live can give glory to God. Live in such a way that when you're around people who don't believe what you believe, they may not understand it. They may even disagree with it, but they can't help but give God glory for the way that you live your life. Your lifestyle can bring people and point people to Jesus. Because hear me, effective evangelism is not just about telling, it's also about being like Christ, which is why integrity matters so much in the life of a Christian. Because one of the easiest ways to discredit the message of the good news is to live a life that looks nothing like it. Question I want.
That's what was it Mahatma Gandhi said? I like your Christians, but I like your Christ, but I do not like your Christians. Your Christians are so unlike your Christ. That's an excellent message. And I've seen them using scripture in 2 of their shorts. Let's take a look at one of their sermons. Not too terribly long for church.
If you have a Bible, you can open up to Exodus chapter 25. Exodus 25 and in
Right, so you can go and watch those whole series and find the different churches. Like Tim mentioned at the beginning, is that we are going to have those throughout the nation. You can also drop in and recommend a church for us to review and take a look at. So. We're going to have some nice worship music for this morning, be a little bit calmer, and got a couple news stations and some weather up there. When some more news or live cams get started, we'll have more on the screen to do.
Matthew 15. That which defile. 1 Then some Pharisees and teachers of the law came to Jesus from Jerusalem and asked 2 Why do your disciples break the tradition of the elders? They don't wash their hands before they eat. 3 Jesus replied, And why do you break the command of God for the sake of your tradition? 4 For God said, Honor your father and mother, and anyone who curses their father or mother is to be put to death. 5 But you say that if anyone declares that what might have been used to help their father or mother is devoted to God, 6 They are not to honor their father or mother with it. Thus you nullify the word of God for the sake of your tradition. 7 You hypocrites! Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you. 8 These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. 9 They worship me in vain. Their teachings are merely human rules. 10 Jesus called the crowd to him and said, Listen, and understand. 11 What goes into someone's mouth does not defile them, but what comes out of their mouth, that is what defiles them. 12 Then the disciples came to him and asked, Do you know that the Pharisees were offended when they heard this? 13 He replied, Every plant that my heavenly Father has not planted will be pulled up by the roots. 14 Leave them, they are blind guides. If the blind lead the blind, both will fall into a pit. 15 Peter said, Explain the parable to us. 16 Are you still so dull? Jesus asked them. 17 Don't you see that whatever enters the mouth goes into the stomach and then out of the body? 18 But the things that come out of a person's mouth come from the heart, and these defile them. 19 For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false testimony, slander. 20 These are what defile a person, but eating with unwashed hands does not defile them. The faith of a Canaanite woman. 21 Leaving that place, Jesus withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon. 22 A Canaanite woman from that vicinity came to him, crying out, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is demon-possessed and suffering terribly. 23 Jesus did not answer a word. So his disciples came to him and urged him, Send her away, for she keeps crying out after us. 24 He answered, I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel. 25 The woman came and knelt before him. Lord, help me. She said. 26 He replied, It is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. 27 Yes it is, Lord, she said. Even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table. 28 Then Jesus said to her, Woman, you have great faith. Your request is granted. And her daughter was healed at that moment. Jesus feeds the 4,000. 29 Jesus left there and went along the Sea of Galilee. Then he went up on a mountainside and sat down. 30 Great crowds came to him, bringing the lame, the blind, the crippled, the mute and many others, and laid them at his feet, and he healed them. 31 The people were amazed when they saw the mute speaking, the crippled made well, the lame walking and the blind seeing. And they praised the God of Israel. 32 Jesus called his disciples to him and said, I have compassion for these people, they have already been with me 3 days and have nothing to eat. I do not want to send them away hungry, or they may collapse on the way. 33 His disciples answered, Where could we get enough bread in this remote place to feed such a crowd? 34 How many loaves do you have? Jesus asked. 7, they replied, and a few small fish. 35 He told the crowd to sit down on the ground. 36 Then he took the 7 loaves and the fish, and when he had given thanks, he broke them and gave them to the disciples, and they in turn to the people. 37 They all ate and were satisfied. Afterward the disciples picked up 7 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. 38 The number of those who ate was 4,000 men, besides women and children. 39 After Jesus had sent the crowd away, he got into the boat and went to the vicinity of Magadan. Matthew 16. The demand for a sign. 1. The Pharisees and Sadducees came to Jesus and tested him by asking him to show them a sign from heaven. 2. When evening comes, you say, it will be fair weather, for the sky is red, and in the morning, today it will be stormy, for the sky is red and overcast. You know how to interpret the appearance of the sky, but you cannot interpret the signs of the times. A wicked and adulterous generation looks for a sign, but none will be given it except the sign of Jonah. Jesus then left them and went away. The yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees. 5. When they went across the lake, the disciples forgot to take bread. 6. Be careful, Jesus said to them. Be on your guard against the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees. 7. They discussed this among themselves and said, it is because we didn't bring any bread. 8. Aware of their discussion, Jesus asked, you of little faith, why are you talking among yourselves about having no bread? 9. Do you still not understand? Don't you remember the 5 loaves for the 5,000, and how many basketfuls you gathered? 10. Or the 7 loaves for the 4,000, and how many basketfuls you gathered? How is it you don't understand that I was not talking to you about bread? But be on your guard against the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees. 12. Then they understood that he was not telling them to guard against the yeast used in bread, but against the teaching of the Pharisees and Sadducees. Peter declares that Jesus is the Messiah. 13. When Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, who do people say the Son of Man is? 14. They replied, some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others, Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. 15. But what about you? He asked. Who do you say I am? 16. Simon Peter answered, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. 17. Jesus replied, blessed are you, Simon son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by my Father in heaven. 18. And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it. 19. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. 20. Then he ordered his disciples not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah. Jesus predicts his death. 21. From that time on Jesus began to explain to his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things at the hands of the elders, the chief priests and the teachers of the law, and that he must be killed and on the 3rd day be raised to life. 22. Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. Never, Lord, he said. This shall never happen to you. 23. Jesus turned and said to Peter, get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me, you do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns. 24. Then Jesus said to his disciples, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. 25. Will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it. 26. What good will it be for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul? 27. For the Son of Man is going to come in his Father's glory with his angels, and then he will reward each person according to what they have done. 28. Truly I tell you, some who are standing here will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Copyright information for
Yeah, don't worry, copyright information for is not actually a part of the Bible. Yeah, that was Matthew 15 and 16. clouds are covering the city. Oil and ashes are raining down on the streets. And this happened apparently right after we left last night. As the Portland protest, a guy.
Oh, what an idiot!
Kick around and find out.
Wow.
So as these situations in Venezuela and Cuba should make clear under our new doctrine, and it is a doctrine, we will not allow hostile foreign influence to gain a foothold in this hemisphere. That includes the Panama Canal, which we talked about. We're not going to allow it. And together we'll protect our sovereignty, our security, and our cherished freedom and independence. And just in finishing up, the nations gathered here today are filled with unlimited potential. You have tremendous potential. It's a great part of the world. But to fulfill that tremendous potential, we must smash the grip of the cartels and criminal gangs and horrible organizations run by, in some cases, absolute animals, and truly liberate our people. And some people are afraid to do it because they've gotten such a foothold. But I think you can get out of that, and we'll work with you if you need. With the courage and resolve of the leaders in this room, great leaders, will make our nation safer, stronger, richer, and more successful than ever before. So I want to thank you all very much for coming. I look forward to the incredible progress that's soon to come. You're going to see some incredible things. And now I'd like to ask Secretary Rubio and Secretary Hegseth to say a few words, and then I'll sign a proclamation formally launching the America's Counter Cartel Coalition, which is what it is. It's a counter cartel coalition. And thank you all for being here very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
So as we see here, President Trump is going to welcome up U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth to make some comments at the summit. While they transition there, we are going to step away for a quick commercial break, but we'll play out their comments when we come back.
We're going to be doing some incredible things together, because I look at our region, if I can call it that, as being very important. It's been abandoned by the United States for so many years. You know, they went so far away. They went to these faraway places where they weren't even wanted. And a lot of stupid people, really stupid people. But Marco's going to go down, I think, as the best Secretary of State in history. That's my opinion. Now, I'm a little prejudiced because I like him too, but I think he's on his way. So you've done 25%, you got 75%. He's got 3 years left, so he's got 25% under your belt. So far, you're leading. You're very leading by just about a smidge over a couple of pretty great ones. Right? We've had a couple of pretty great ones, right? But I think he's going to do that, and I think Pete's right there too. If Pete keeps going, he's going to be something too. At what he does. All of the nations in this room share the same priorities: security, prosperity, free commerce, and the rule of law. And you want the rule of law. Sometimes your communities don't let you have it because you got some rough communities, right? That's why together we're also forming the Shield of Americas, a new organization to advance these shared priorities in our hemisphere. And we're pleased to be joined as well by Secretaries Pete Hegseth, Scott Bessent. Scott, thank you very much, Scott. Oh, it has to be a big deal if you're here. Wow. He controls the purse strings of the country. You know, he goes on television and he just soothes everybody. He did it yesterday. The prices were going. He got on. He's a soothing
one of the most
person.
historic figures in American history, and certainly of the last 100 years, because of what he has been able to do and is doing right now with the Western Hemisphere. Thank you for your bold leadership. It's an honor to be able to serve in your administration. And Mr. President, 2 points I want to make. The first is we have a lot of allies around the world, and we are grateful for our allies. And the countries represented here today, all 12 of the leaders here, are allies. But they're more than allies. They're friends. At a time when we have learned that oftentimes an ally, when you need them, maybe may not be there for you, these are countries that have been there for us, and these are leaders that are not just allies, they are friends, and they are always willing to work and cooperate with the United States, and we're grateful to them. And as you said, Mr. President, these are also countries with extraordinary potential. Some are fulfilling it, some are well on their way to fulfilling it. And this is important. We want to be a partner with you in that. We want the world to see that when you are a friend and an ally of the United States, it is a good thing. It's reciprocated. It comes back the other way as well. And so the fact the President is here today and making this a priority is so critical. If I may, because some of these cameras cover in Spanish. You all right about it? Oh, good. Please. We don't need an interpreter for this one. Quiero darle las gracias. I think I'm a good interpreter. You'll find out in a second. But las gracias a los países que están aquí hoy. Estos países, primero, el presidente ha hecho esta región una prioridad en su administración. Hay muchos presidentes que han dicho que lo van a hacer, pero él lo ha hecho y se lo agradecemos. Y muy agradecido a los 12 países que están aquí hoy. Estos son países que no solamente son aliados, son amigos. Son países que siempre responden cuando hay una necesidad y trabajan en conjunto con nosotros, y queda mucho por hacer. Estos son países que tienen una gran población, mucho potencial, y queremos ser sus socios en desarrollar sus países, sus economías y su seguridad. Y le doy las gracias de verdad por estar aquí en el día de hoy con nosotros. Que Dios bendiga a todos esos países, a los Estados Unidos, y gracias como siempre por la cooperación. Seguiremos trabajando en conjunto y vamos a hacer cosas muy buenas, muy importantes para esta región, que van a hacer que en las generaciones futuras nos van a agradecer la labor que estamos haciendo en el momento de hoy. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Is he better in Spanish or in English? I think he's better in Spanish. I mean, it's great. Pete, please.
Thank you, sir. Mr. President, I only speak American.
That's all right. I speak Cuban.
Well, Mr. President, it's an honor to be here and to establish in this hemisphere peace through strength. For far too long, our country's gaze was only on borders in far-flung places. Not our own border, not our own hemisphere, not the Western Hemisphere. President Trump has established the Trump corollary of the Monroe Doctrine, the Monroe Doctrine. And the War Department is implementing it as fast as we can. In fact, 2 days ago, Mr. President, we launched 18 countries were signatories to the America's Counter Cartel Coalition, ACCC, which is not just an organization that's going to hold conferences and release white papers. That's not what we exist to do. It's an action coalition of like-minded countries who are going to bring their capabilities to bear, with American leadership at the forefront, to ensure we attack and get after this cartel challenge, which for far too long we have accepted as some new normal in our own countries. President Trump and the American people rejected that in our own. We don't have to live with communities flooded with drugs or violence or cartels and gangs. We can seal our border, and we have to for our citizens. We share a hemisphere and geography. We share cultures, Western Christian civilization. We share these things together. We have to have the courage to defend it. And we have a commander-in-chief in our country who's set that compass heading. And at the War Department, we look forward to working with all of your countries and more that are not here to say, with our shared assets and our intelligence and our capabilities, with American leadership, we will go on offense against the cartels. They will know that we're just around the corner. Whether it's drug boats or on land, the America's Counter Cartel Coalition, the ACCC, will be a force for good, for peace through strength in this hemisphere. And we look forward to working with your great countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Would you like to come up and surround us here? Thank you.
that music going. Keep it going.
Nice,
Thank you.
Deal, actually.
That's not an automobile.
It's a beautiful memento. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
It's great that it's Spanish and smart. They're all there. They're all there. You gotta plan all the countries.
So we were just watching there President Trump attending that Shield of America summit. Now, this is a live look we have at the White House over in Washington, D.C. However, that summit was held in Doral, Florida. It happened just yesterday, in which the president said that the United States and Latin American countries are banding together to combat violent cartels, as his administration looks to demonstrate it remains committed to sharpening U.S. foreign policy focus on the Western Hemisphere, even while dealing with the 5 alarm crises around the globe. President Trump encouraged regional leaders gathered at his Miami area golf club to take military action against drug trafficking cartels and transnational gangs that he says pose an unacceptable threat to the hemisphere's national security. The gathering, which the White House called the Shield of the Americas Summit, came just 2 months after President Trump ordered an audacious U.S. military operation to capture Venezuela's then-president Nicolás Maduro and whisk him and his wife to the United States to face drug conspiracy charges. Looming even larger is President Trump's decision to launch a war on Iran with Israel 1 week ago, a conflict that has left hundreds dead, convulsed global markets, and unsettled the broader Middle East. So we just wanted to play out those recent comments from the president, again happening in Doral, Florida, while also keeping a very close eye on all of the developments coming out of the Middle East. I want to bring us out to the live images that we continue to have all throughout this Sunday. This takes us out to Beirut in Lebanon. We also have some images coming out of Israel, including this one over in Tel Aviv. And then we also have another live image over in Jerusalem. The escalating war in the Middle East is continuing and remains to be one of the major stories that we're going to follow throughout the day today. So make sure you stay with us here as we bring all of those latest developments. We'll be right back.
So many. India, Pakistan, that was going to be a disaster. That was raging for a number of days. I did that through trade. I used tariffs and trade. And it was amazing. But we did amazing. One was 32 years, one was 34, and one was 37 years, and we got it done very quickly. And we'll get this one done too. But the hatred is, hatred's an amazing thing. People do bad things, and people don't get things done when the hatred is too great. That's a lot of it. Just as we formed a coalition to eradicate ISIS in the Middle East, we must now do the same thing to eradicate the cartels at home. So we did eradicate ISIS. Now, during the 4 years, we had a rigged election. You probably read about it, probably heard something. So it gave me 4 years to contemplate and to stage my comeback. I staged big comeback. They say it was a comeback. I didn't think it was a comeback because I had the people on my side. So I didn't view it as a comeback. But they did everything possible during that 4 years. They're crooked politicians, dirty cops. They're dirty cops. They did everything possible to make it impossible for me to win. And I won in a landslide. But during that period of time, I learned a lot. And I learned how you people, and I saw it so badly, how you're suffering with what's happening with the crime in the region. And I said, if we ever come back, we're going to eradicate that crime. And I'm going to work with you. And if you want, we're going to do it. We can do it pretty easily. As part of our commitment to countering the cartel presence in our region, we must recognize the epicenter of cartel violence is
more here, and as you've seen from
Mexico.
So much more we can work together on.
The Mexico.
And as you've seen from the cabinet members that are here today, again, on behalf of the president, he is currently on his way to Dover Air Force Base to receive, sadly, the remains of the 6 Americans who lost their lives in the operation against Iranian terrorism. And so he apologizes for not being able to join us for this lunch, but he knew you would understand. But he's very excited about this initiative, and I'm personally very excited to be part of this with each of you today. It's a top priority for us. And while there are clearly a focus on the security of the hemisphere, as you can see from the representation in our cabinet, from trade to commerce to energy to treasury, and there is also a focus very strongly on the opportunities we have to work together economically. But you can't have economic progress without security. And as evidence of the president's strong commitment to this initiative, so that this is not just going to be something that we meet one time and have conversations and we meet once a year and put out a paper. We want it to be an issue of action. He has appointed Secretary Noem as the special envoy dedicated to this relationship. And you will see a lot of her. She'll be very involved with each of you at a personal level and on a daily and weekly and monthly level to ensure that what we talk about here today and the work we do together continues on, and we can build upon that. So I want to turn it over to our envoy, who will be doing this, and she'll be running our program. And again, thank you really, truly, for joining us in this, what I think is a very historic gathering of allies and friends, as I said in my comments earlier today. Secretary Noem.
Well, thank you, Secretary Rubio. I appreciate all of you being here today and for making this a priority. First of all, I offer thanks to our president, who had the vision to bring all of you as world leaders here to have the conversation on not just protecting your countries, but also protecting your neighbors, and the Shield of America is becoming a real vision. This is intended to be a group that works together to make sure that we're each defending our own sovereignty, we're each defending our own security and economic prosperity, but then also continuing to build on these relationships to ensure that we can do that in a way that's effective, defeating the enemies that we have amongst us in the cartel organizations, which our country has designated as foreign terrorist organizations. But then also by adding that security element, we have an opportunity then to have economic prosperity that blesses all of our people. So I do want to thank the president for creating this and for giving me the honor and the opportunity to serve as a special envoy to this region, to the Western Hemisphere. This Shield of Americas will be a powerful example to the rest of the world about what's possible. There's nothing like this happening today anywhere else in the world. And the way that we cooperate on our shared ideals of freedom and of democracy and safety and security will be a shining light to all of those who wish to be more like all of us. So my background is I'm a farmer and a rancher that served in government, in Congress as governor, and then as Secretary of Homeland Security. In the last year as Secretary of Homeland Security, we have focused on securing our border. We have transformed our country from one that was being invaded by enemies, millions of them that were coming in unvetted, that we didn't know who was there and who wished to harm us. We've secured that border. We've focused on removing public safety threats, and over 3 million people have been deported or removed from our country in the last year. Secure borders has changed everything for our country. It's allowed us an opportunity to focus on business and investment, relationships with other countries, and has ended the crisis that our country was going through in the years previous to President Trump's leadership. So that is something that we recognize, that now that America is secure and our borders are secure, that we want to focus on our neighbors and to help our neighbors with their borders and challenges that they have so that they may have the security that we enjoy. I've looked forward to meeting many of you. Many of you I've met throughout the last year and spent time with. I know President Bukele was probably, I think, the first world leader I had the chance to visit with. We partnered on security and in El Salvador, and appreciate the way he's brought peace to El Salvador, and prosperity is following. That's been a great example. Also went to Chile and spent some time and enjoyed that as well. We focused on, under the Department of Homeland Security, we have cybersecurity operations and experts, and we worked there with embedding some cybersecurity experts and have that opportunity to continue to build on that if that's some of the challenges that you may have. Spent some time in Argentina with President Milei as well, and appreciated his focus on economic prosperity and how we could work together on that. And of course, Ecuador has been very strong partners with all of us. We've worked on not just security and fighting cartels, but also making sure the drug trafficking is being addressed and we can build those relationships. I've been in many of your other countries working with your presidents and leaders, and hope to continue to build on that so that we could have candid conversations about what to do in the future. Our objectives are going to be to destroy the cartels, to go after these narco-terrorists that are destroying our people, killing our children and our grandchildren. We're also going to keep our adversaries at bay. Those adversaries that wish to change our way of life and our values that are outside of our hemisphere, we want to ensure that we're continuing to keep them out of our hemisphere and focus on building alliances amongst ourselves and our strengths. We have worked and are proud of the Department of War with the conference that many of you just attended the last few days, and we'll continue to do that. We want our hemisphere to be safer, to be more sovereign, and to be more prosperous, and looking forward to working with you on all of that. The first objective will be not just on sovereignty, but also migration control, that we'll work on economic prosperity. We'll have and reverse these harmful foreign influences that have come into many of our businesses, our technologies, and we've seen infiltrate different areas of our way of life. That will be my objective every day. I will, when the press leaves, give you all my personal cell phone numbers so that you can reach me at any time that you may need something, and we'll work together to continue to make sure that our relationship is a shield to the Americas, that this will be a Western Hemisphere that is better, safer, more prosperous, and more free because of the leadership that all of you provide. So thank you to Secretary Rubio for hosting this and having the vision to bring us all together. I think this will be something that for years to come will bring more security to our nations.
All right. Well, thank you. We'll ask our friends and not friends to leave.
Iranian retaliation in this hemisphere. What's next on Iran?
That was the very latest from Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Secretary of Nome as they were in Florida yesterday for the Shield of America Summit. And you also heard at the very last bit one of the reporters asking about whether there might be any security concerns in the southern hemisphere because of the ongoing conflict in Iran. I did want to share this live look as we continue to follow all of the developments. This is a live look from Beirut, Lebanon, and you can see some of the smoke billowing in the skyline right here. I did want to share the very latest as we continue to follow all of the developments. This as Israeli forces expanded their bombardment of Iran overnight, striking fuel depots near Tehran, while Bahrain said an Iranian attack had damaged one of the desalination plants, signaling a widening assault on vital infrastructure across the region. As the fighting escalated on day 9 of the U.S.-Israeli assault on Iran, Tehran moved closer to naming a new supreme leader after the killing of Ayatollah Khamenei, with every indication suggesting that his son could take charge. Meanwhile, an Israeli source said fuel was used to manufacture and develop weapons and to operate military bases after Tehran had some black smoke rising from the skyline after strikes on an oil storage facility right there. So we are continuing to follow the very latest as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said his government would press on with the assault and strike Iran's rulers without mercy, saying we have an organized plan with many surprises to destabilize the regime and enable change. We have many more targets. This comes as President Trump was speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One, stating that he was not interested in negotiating an end to the conflict, saying, quote, at some point, I don't think there will be anyone left, maybe to say, we surrender. To speak more on this, I do want to bring in Navy Reserve Intelligence Officer and former White House Senior Advisor Paul Chabot to talk about the very latest developments. And Paul, I appreciate you taking the time to join us here on Live Now from Fox.
Yeah, my pleasure. Great update. Happy to answer questions. Things are turning every 24 hours.
A lot of developments continue. I did want to start with this. President Trump speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One, stating that he is not interested in negotiating an end to the conflict, stating the war might only end once Iran's military and rulers have been wiped out. I wanted to ask you from that perspective, how does one accomplish that? President Trump did previously indicate that he was looking at perhaps a 4 to 6 week timeline for the conflict, although he left the door open for possibly an extended period of time.
Look, it's clear America and Israel are really winning, not only necessarily in the air, which is what you need to control, but at sea as well. What's interesting is when Iran had mentioned that they have a new president, they did not mention that potential new leader by name, which is interesting because it says a lot that if you can't name your leader of your own country, it shows how much in danger their leadership feels. We're sort of moving into a second phase, almost third phase now in this war. Initially, we want to make sure we get as many of the missiles, destroy any ability of their Navy, which we have done. But now what you're seeing is Israel going into another phase. They're going after police stations. They're going after fuel storage. And hearing Trump's confidence on the plane, I think really signals the confidence of where we are as a nation, how our military feels, and quite honestly, how I think the world as of today sees how this war is going.
You were talking about the different phases, and that was actually going to be my next question, because we were hearing from Secretary Hegseth as well as General Kane earlier in the week talking about the next phase of Operation Epic Fury. Can you break down for our viewers the difference between phase 1 and 2, and then also looking ahead, what might phase 3 look like?
Yeah, so in the military, you have different courses of action. It all depends on what's happening at the moment. So it's hard to project exactly where we will go. And obviously, I have no insight into that realm anymore. But historically, number one, you want to secure the airspace. We announced that, I think, 4 days ago, that we now have total control of the airspace. We've eliminated about 90% of their missile capability. The concern now going forward is what Iran has a lot of and is able still to develop, which are drones. Those suicide drones are extremely effective, but we also want to help look at local populations, the people that want to stand up against their regime, but who then would target those civilians in Iran. And a lot of that entity would be the police force, which is sort of interesting. When you look at how Iran as a nation was recreated after 1979, it developed itself to be a very resilient nation. Unlike when you think about taking on World War II and Hitler and cutting off the head of the snake, that's not necessarily the same here when we talk about Iran. They have various tiers. And so we're also looking at a worldwide ideology. I will say, look, this looks now like it's going great, but the big concerns right now, the Strait of Hormuz, the economic impact, suicide impacts, terrorists around the globe, I anticipate those things are going to tick up absolutely in the weeks ahead.
You know, you were talking about drones that Iran has, and I did want to ask you about that in terms of how much of a weapons supply Iran has right now, and the different, defensive and offensive mechanisms that they currently have in place. How long might this last for them?
Well, they really don't have much defensive left. When you control the airspace, that is so critical. Obviously, we're not putting boots on the ground, but that would have been another phase in a more sort of historical war. But the drones are cheap. And you've got to think about this also on a global perspective. Right now, you still have Russia and Ukraine fighting, but Russia was getting a lot of their drone technology from Iran. So right now, Russia's not getting that same pipeline to be able to attack Ukraine. So that is a victory on that side. But we're also now going after the places that can manufacture. So, for example, we're going to go after the oil, the fuel depots as much as we can, manufacturing sites. However, the difficulty with drones is that these are so cheap to make, maybe $20,000, $30,000, and many of them are one-way drones, suicide drones, and a lot of the attacks we see right now happening in Kuwait earlier this morning, they're hitting fuel supplies. And so it is very difficult to get our arms around all of these smaller tactical type drones, especially the ones that are going out in masses.
So when we take a look at this and we see the strategies for Iran and the retaliation that they're focusing on, how does that change the U.S. military strategy, if at all?
Yeah, I don't think it does at this point. And I also will say Israel's in the driver's seat. Historically, what we have to remember is Mossad, the equivalent in many ways, when we look at it, to the CIA on the intel that they've been collecting on Iran. And they've been doing it for decades. When you think back, after the October 7th attack and the months that led afterwards, and the successful operations that Mossad had in Iran and other parts of the globe going after those that killed Israeli civilians, that we're in a phase now where it's not just the United States, where we are really safe for the large part here at home, but Israel's looking at this from a completely different perspective. They do not want to see Iran continue in the same fashion because they look at it as still almost their next door neighbor that has the ability to strike them in the future. So they want to eliminate every single possibility and option on the table to bring Iran absolutely to their knees. And that's why it's so important that President Trump signaled an unconditional surrender.
You know, you were talking about Israel. The initial strike was the United States and Israel working in tandem with Operation Epic Fury and Operation Roaring Lion. When it comes to taking a look at the next phases, we were hearing Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu stating that there will be many surprises yet to come in this conflict. The continuing communication and the continuing tandem operations, how does that, work? Are they still working in tandem, or are these now more separate operations between the two countries?
No, we're absolutely working together. These operations were planned together. They're going to continue to coordinate together. But there's also deconfliction, which when you have so many military assets in the air, in the water, from two nations, we are absolutely sharing information back and forth to worry about deconfliction of our own forces accidentally shooting down each other, which, as we know, has already happened in one of the Gulf states with one of our American jets. So the deconfliction is happening because we're sharing intel, we're sharing information. And quite honestly, when you think about the military perspective, when we plan for wars, we think about what are called the 5 Eyes of how we share information with our allies. This is not one of those sort of wars. This is where it is the United States and Israel that has taken on a significant leadership role in the Middle East at significant risk and has been extremely successful. Now, success brings the loss of life. We've lost 6 United States service members, huge loss. But in the totality of where we are, Iran has lost over 1,000 plus at this point, and we've lost 6. Not that it's a numbers game, prayers to the family and those. But overall, this is a very successful operation thus far.
And Paul, I also wanted to ask you this because Iran's not just targeting U.S. and Israeli locations and facilities. The governments of Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and the UAE, as well as Bahrain, reporting Iranian drone attacks in their countries yesterday and early this morning. You know, as we take a look at this, and Iran is now targeting some of the countries there in the Middle East, how does that change, if at all, the United States strategy, Israel strategy? Are they solely focusing on Iran, or might this also then, you know, the footprint, might that grow as well?
You know, it's interesting because Iran recently, in the last 24 hours, basically apologized to the Gulf states, saying, we apologize, we didn't mean to hit you, we didn't intend to hit you. But at the same time, it shows the disruption in Iran when they are targeting Gulf state oil refineries, when you see random lobs at other locations. What it shows us is a complete disorganization within their military leadership. And what we should watch going forward is if there is a leader that rises in Iran. Now, remember, Israel wants to wipe out every single leader that they feel is going to be an adversary. Where we will see things change is if there is a leader that is selected or brought forward through their own revolution within their nation, then you begin to see the United States and Israel having discussions about how to work. But right now, we're nowhere near that phase. You have a lot of loyalists. You have an ideology which is wrapping their arms around Iran, and they don't want to go down. They do not want to give up what they have. And so the protections of what we can do by controlling the airspace and continuing to control that the best we can, working to see if the citizens can rise up and take over their own country, or there is a leader put in place that provides unconditional surrender. I see those as the only 2 ways going forward for this to be resolved.
And Paul, I want to go back to a point that you brought up in the very beginning. You know, Iran has said that they are very close to announcing the next leader, but they haven't yet named that person. Yeah. You know, can you talk about the significance of that? As you also mentioned that there looks to be some fractions within the ruling party right now. Who currently is in charge, and could those cracks grow as the days go on?
So power in Iran, it's spread amongst these multiple institutions. You've got the Revolutionary Guard. You have a formal successional mechanisms. All these have been put in place since 1979. You have parallel security forces, intelligence, law enforcement, paramilitary, IRCG. But then you have this ideology. And so by Iran not mentioning the name of their leader, I can only tell you that from the military intel perspective and everybody else involved in this, we see that as a great sign of weakness, but it shows our strength because they don't want to get their next leader killed right away. And Israel has made it absolutely crystal clear that we're going to continue to follow the lead with the United States. Unless unconditional surrender, we are not going to stop. The pressure is going to keep going.
Paul, before we let you go, is there anything specific that you're keeping a very close eye on as we are now in the next phase of Operation Epic Fury?
Yeah, a few things. Let's watch the Strait of Hormuz. For your viewers out there, that is a choke point where about 20% of the world's oil comes from. Huge economic impact. Thankfully, the United States is largely energy independent, although our gas prices are up 15, 20, 40 cents, depending where you are. Watch the Strait of Hormuz. The United States and our allies have been very cognizant of that. Also, interesting to watch what we are using for new technology or even old technology. We used a old school Mark torpedo with upgraded technology that blew up an Iranian frigate that was in international waters that was coming back from doing exercises with Russia and China. Watch Russia and China right now. They have not indicated any willingness to get involved militarily. However, Russia right now is losing a friend, but we also know they are active in sharing intelligence on U.S. operations to the best that they can to the Iranians. So watch these pieces play. Watch how our adversaries, China, Russia, stay in the background, potentially try to use the UN in the weeks ahead if this drags on to a degree to where we see more loss of life, or if we begin to see suicide attacks on our embassies and other Americans across the globe. That's what's to watch.
All right, Paul Chabot, as always, we appreciate you joining us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thank you. God bless.
And I did want to share this live look of Beirut, Lebanon. As you can see, some of those plumes of smoke continuing to rise. This as President Trump has said that he is not interested in negotiating an end to the Iran conflict. This also comes as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu promising many surprises for the next phase of Operation Roaring Lion. We are going to just step away for a brief moment. We have a lot more news to get to on this Sunday. And before we head to break, I did want to share this live look with you of the White House. Yesterday, President Trump aboard Air Force One speaking with the media. We're going to play out his latest remarks for you after the break. I'm Stephanie Quinu. You're watching Live Now from Fox. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox on this Sunday. I'm Stephanie Quinu. Before we head to President Trump's latest remarks aboard Air Force One, I did want to share this with you right here. This is from the State Department saying that the U.S. Department of State has surged hundreds of call takers to assist Americans with getting home quickly and safely. From travel assistance to safety guidance, we stand ready to serve Americans aboard 24/7. For travel assistance, call 1-202-501-4444. And I did want to put that up as we wanted to share that number a little more largely right here on the screen. So this is for Americans in the Middle East who are trying to leave that region amid the ongoing conflict in Iran. For emergency assistance, you can call that number right there on your screen, 1-202-501-4444. You can also head to the State Department website at step.state.gov. We're also continuing to follow the very latest, as I did want to share this live look of the White House with you. CENTCOM, the U.S. military, has just issued a safety warning to civilians in Iran as Iran's terrorist regime disregards, they say, the safety of innocent people. So the quote that they have just issued is, the Iranian regime is using heavily populated civilian areas to conduct military operations, including launching one-way attack drones and ballistic missiles. This dangerous decision risks the lives of all civilians in Iran, since locations used for military purposes lose protected status and could become legitimate military targets under international law. Iranian forces are using crowded areas surrounding by civilians in a number of cities to launch attack drones and ballistic missiles. U.S. forces strongly urge civilians in Iran to stay at home. The Iranian regime is knowingly endangering innocent lives. Additionally, Iranian forces are jeopardizing the safety of innocent people throughout the Middle East by deliberately and indiscriminately targeting civilian airports, hotels, and residential neighborhoods. Admiral Brad Cooper, the commander of CENTCOM, says, quote, Iran's terrorist regime is blatantly disregarding civilian lives by attacking Gulf partners while compromising the safety of their own people. CENTCOM goes on to say Iran has launched hundreds of ballistic missiles and thousands of one-way attack drones since February 28th. However, launch rates have drastically declined as U.S. and partner forces decimate Iran's military capabilities. The U.S. military takes every feasible precaution to minimize harm to civilians, but cannot guarantee civilian safety in or near facilities used by the Iranian regime for military purposes. Unlike the Iranian regime, U.S. forces do not target or intentionally risk the safety of civilians. So that is a new warning just issued by the U.S. military for civilians in Iran, and we did want to share that with you. In the meantime, though, I did want to play out the very latest remarks from President Trump as he was aboard Air Force One.
Any questions? President Trump, did what you just witnessed make you think differently about going ahead with this war, or even putting troops on the ground in the Middle East?
We're winning the war by a lot. We've decimated their whole evil empire. It'll continue, I'm sure, for a little while. But I'm very proud of the people, the parents. The parents were so proud of their boy, as they call him, my boy. One case, the young lady. The parents are so proud. Many of them are military parents, as you know. So but it's always a very sad thing. The war itself is going unbelievably. It's as good as it can be. We have Pete here, and you have Steve Witkoff here. We have some additional questions.
You're 1 week in now, sir. You're 1 week in at this point. How long, as of now, do you expect?
Well, I think we've accomplished more in 1 week than anyone thought possible. We've wiped out their Navy, 44 ships. We've wiped out their Air Force, every plane. We've wiped out most of their missiles. You see, the missiles aren't coming much anymore. We've also hit their manufacturing areas where they make the missiles very hard. Their drone capacity is way down. And we've hurt them where it hurts. Including about every form of leadership you can have, we've wiped out.
You still expect up to 6 weeks total?
I don't know. I don't know. I never reject that, whatever it takes. But the military is almost non-existent. You know, we could hit the military itself very hard, but maybe we will. Maybe we won't. We haven't made that determination.
How do you think about gas prices? Gas prices right now? Are you worried about gas prices right now?
No. This is a short excursion into something that should have been done for 47 years. 47 years it's taken to do this, and no president had the guts to do it.
You're worried you're going to end up coming back to Dover for more of these such dignified transfers?
I'm sure I hate to do it, but it's a part of war, isn't it?
Mr.
Who are you with?
The Washington Post.
When you say it's a part of war? sad part of it. It's the bad part of it.
Mr. President, did the United States bomb a girls' elementary school in southern Iran on the first day of the war and kill hundreds of people?
No, in my opinion, based on what I've seen, that was done by Iran.
Is that true, Mr. Hegseth? It was Iran who did that?
We're certainly investigating.
Still investigating.
But the only side that targets civilians is Iran.
We think it was done by Iran. Because they're very inaccurate, as you know, with their munitions. They have no accuracy whatsoever. It was done by Iran.
Can you give us an idea of what unconditional surrender looks like to you? I mean, what do you want from Iran?
I said unconditional, not conditional. I said unconditional. It's where they cry uncle, or when they can't fight any longer and there's nobody around to cry uncle. That could happen too, because we've wiped out their leadership numerous times already. So it's if they surrender, or if there is nobody around to surrender, but they're rendered useless in terms of military.
Mr. President, can I ask you what Peter asked you a question yesterday? You said it wasn't the right time in that event, but he was asking whether you have indications of whether Russia is supporting Iran somehow in this.
No, I haven't had that. I haven't had no indication of that whatsoever. If they are, they're not doing a very good job, because Iran is not doing too well.
What about the Strait of Hormuz? There's no traffic really going through it right now.
The ship's choices, but we haven't cleaned out. We've wiped out their Navy. Their Navy is now at the bottom of the sea. So that's the choice. This is an excursion. We figured oil prices would go up, which they will. They'll also come down. They'll come down very fast, and we will have gotten rid of a major cancer on the face of the earth. We will have taken out a cancer. Don't forget October 7th. Don't forget all of the things that have happened over the years, all caused by these people. So what we're doing is a great thing, not only for our country, and not only for Israel, not only for the Middle East, but for the world.
Secretary Bessent announced some moves to temporarily allow certain Russian oil sales to India. Are you considering any other moves, including the SPR?
Well, if there were some, I would do it just to take a little of the pressure off. But I think that the oil pressure, but there's a lot of oil. We've got a lot of oil. Our country has a tremendous amount, and there's a lot of oil out there. That'll get healed very quickly.
Would you consider using the SPR or tapping into the SPR at some point?
Strategic reserve?
Yeah.
Well, I'm the one that built them up. Biden used them so that he could get some extra votes in the election. It turned out it wasn't even him that ran, it was Kamala. And she obviously didn't get any extra votes because we won in an absolute landslide. So he shouldn't have used it for that. He used it to I filled it up, and he brought it down to the lowest level it's ever been. We will start at the appropriate time, which is basically a gut instinct. We will start filling up these strategic reserves.
What are the circumstances where you send in ground troops? How are you thinking about that?
I don't even want to talk about it now. I don't think it's an appropriate question. I'm not going to answer it. Could there be? Possibly, for very good reason. Have to be very good reason. And I would say if we ever did that, they would be so decimated that they wouldn't be able to fight at the ground level.
Are you thinking about the oil facility there? There's an oil facility kind of on the coast of Iran that could be secured by ground troops. There's been some speculation that would be.
I don't know what the speculation is, but I certainly wouldn't be able to tell you that. I'd be in trouble with myself if I told you.
Mr. President, do you need ground troops to secure the enriched uranium at the nuclear sites?
To find out about that, we haven't talked about it, but it was a total obliteration. They haven't been able to get to it, and at some point maybe we will. That'd be a great thing, but right now we're just decimating them. But we haven't gone after it. But something we could do later on. We wouldn't do it now. Maybe we'd do it later.
Do you want to be involved in the selection of the next leader of Iran? Can you talk to me?
Well, because I don't want to just come back every 10 years, and mostly you'll have presidents, that won't do that because they don't get it. But we don't want to come back every 5 years or every 10 years and do this. So we want to pick a president that's not going to be leading their country into a war. Do you have any questions for Pete or Steve? Come on up.
Mr. Whitlock,
Steve, come on up.
Mr. Whitlock, is there still space to do a deal with whatever
settle. They'd like to settle. We're not looking to settle.
Iran accused
the British government has now offered use of some. The British government has offered use of some bases now, and you had previously said you were very disappointed in
the two aircraft carriers.
I mean, about British bases.
Did you see my response that I just put out? I just put out a response. Give me the offer to send 2 aircraft carriers. Maybe, but they're not sure. I just put out a response to them. I said, we don't need them. It's not the right time. It would have been nice to have had them 2 weeks ago, but the response I put out, I think, says it very well for you.
Iran today accused the U.S. of hitting a desalination plant in Iran, and they said that might open the door to other strikes on infrastructure, non-military infrastructure.
Also open the door to other strikes against them. Look, let me tell you about Iran. They are among the most evil people ever on earth. They cut babies' heads off. They chop women in half. What they did, take a look at October 7th. Take a look at what they've done over the last 47 years. So I know nothing about a desalinization plant other than to say, if they're complaining about a desalinization plant, we complain about the fact that they shouldn't be chopping babies' heads off, okay?
Mr. Wikoff, have you communicated to the Russians not to send targeting information and other assistance to the Iranians?
Strongly said that.
And do you believe that they are? I hope they're not. And do you see any evidence?
We don't know, but it's not doing very well. If they are, it's not helping much. You take a look at what's happened to Iran in the last week. If they're getting information, it's not helping them much.
What would it mean to you if they were? I mean, even if it's not helping the Iranians particularly much, it's still involving themselves in a conflict that they're not.
I guess they'd say we do it against them, wouldn't they? Wouldn't they say that? We do it against them? I don't know. Look, they can give all the information that they want, but people they're sending it to are overwhelmed. Russia would be overwhelmed too. Anybody would be overwhelmed. We have the greatest military on earth, and I built it in my first term, and unfortunately, I'm forced to use it now. But when you look at what we did with Venezuela, when you look at what we did with the B-2 bombers, it was a very big moment because Iran was going to have a nuclear weapon within 2 or 3 weeks, and that stopped it, and it stopped it cold. And you ask about maybe going back and getting that, something could happen at the right time.
Is Iran running out of missiles and drones?
Yeah, I think so.
Those counterattacks to continue indefinitely?
Not only that, manufacturing capability also. We've hit the manufacturing very hard. They're at about 9% of what they sent down in the first 2 days, and we think that's because they don't have that much. We've knocked out about 70% of the rocket, of the launchers. The launchers are a big deal. Very hard to get, very expensive.
We want to talk about leverage. With every passing day, we have more and more leverage because we have more and more capabilities. We're hitting them harder and harder, and they have less of an ability to defend themselves. So we're pressing the offensive every single day, creating all the leverage the president needs for the outcoming months.
So it sounds like you think they're running out of one or both of the drones.
Well, I think when you look, they're sending in much less drones. They're being decimated now. At some point, I don't think there'll be anybody left, maybe, to say we surrender. They're being decimated, and when you look, also, all of a sudden they apologized to the Middle Eastern states that they shot at them. I was very surprised to see they did that, but you mark that down as a victory for us and for the Middle Eastern states, who are really friends of ours. But I guess they're not going to be shooting at them anymore. They apologized, and we'll see what happens. But that's a big loss. That's a surrender right there. I called it a surrender today. When they apologized and said they're not shooting at them anymore, that's really a surrender to those states and to us. So anything else?
Sir, some Iranians are concerned that the Kurds will carve out kind of an autonomous region as they did in Syria and Iraq.
We're not looking at the Kurds going in. We're very friendly with the Kurds, as you know, but we don't want to make the war any more complex than it already is. No.
You've ruled that out?
We don't want, I have ruled it out. I don't want the Kurds going in. I don't want to see the Kurds get hurt, get killed. We've had a good relation. They're willing to go in, but I've told them I don't want them to go in.
And do you think the
map of Iran will...
I just think the war is complicated enough without getting the Kurds involved.
And do you think the map of Iran looks the same after this is all done?
That I can't tell you. Probably not.
Do you know if any shipping companies have taken the U.S. up on its offer of insurance to go through the Strait of Hormuz?
No, we have it set up. We have a great insurance and reinsurance system, but I don't.
Sorry, when you talk about...
When this ends, we're going to have a much safer world, you know that. So, you know, this is a minor excursion. But when this ends, we're going to have a much safer world. And we will have gotten rid of a lot of sick and demented people, the leadership. So we got rid of the one leadership, then we got rid of the second level of leadership. Now they're on their third or fourth level of leadership. And they have leaders right now that nobody even knows who they are. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
That was the very latest from President Trump as he was speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One as you're taking a live look at the White House on this Sunday. We're going to just step away for a moment. Much more coverage to come. Stay with us. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. A reaction continuing to pour in as the conflict in Iran continues. And now Pope Leo is weighing in, taking to social media with this message saying, quote, reports from Iran and across the entire Middle East continue to cause deep dismay and raise the fear that the conflict will expand and that other countries in the region, including dear Lebanon, may once again sink into instability. Let us pray together for the roar of bombs to cease, weapons to fall silent, and space to open for dialogue in which people's voices may be heard. And I did want to take you out to a live look of Beirut as we continue to follow the very latest developments. This is a live look of Beirut, Lebanon, as we were just hearing from the Pope, concerned over countries, including Lebanon, that may once again become unstable. This, as Iran says that it is getting closer to choosing its next supreme leader, and that could come as soon as today to name a successor to Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was killed in an attack early in the conflict. That is according to Iranian media. So as early as today, the clerical body charged with choosing Iran's next supreme leader could meet today to name that successor. A majority consensus over the successor has more or less been reached. That's according to an Assembly of Experts member. Another member of the council said in a video that a candidate had been selected based on Khamenei's guidance that Iran's top leader should be, quote, hated by the enemy. Two Iranian sources told Reuters last week that the favorite was Khamenei's son, who built power under his father as a senior figure in the security forces and the business empire that they control. Choosing him would send a signal that hardliners were still firmly in charge. President Trump has called this biggest U.S. military operation in the Middle East since the 2003 invasion of Iraq, and justifying it by saying Tehran posed an imminent threat to the United States, saying that Iran was too close to being able to build a nuclear weapon. The U.S. and Israel have discussed sending special forces into Iran to secure its stockpile of highly enriched uranium at a later stage of the war. That is according to reporting by Axios, citing 4 people with knowledge of those discussions. We are continuing to follow all of the developments, but the clerical body charged with choosing Iran's next supreme leader could meet as soon as today to name that successor. A live look here of Beirut, Lebanon, as smoke continues to rise from the skyline as Israel continues to retaliate and target Hezbollah in Lebanon. Hezbollah doing the same in Israel. We are just going to step away for a brief moment, but after that, we are going to head to New York City, where the United Nations continues to discuss the ongoing conflict in Iran. This is a live look of a foggy New York City skyline. We're going to play out the very latest remarks from the Israeli ambassador to the United Nations, Danny Danon, and the Iran envoy. All of that coming up in just a moment. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinyu. You're taking a live look at Tel Aviv, Israel, as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has stated that Iran should expect many surprises amid the ongoing conflict with Israel. This, as the Israeli ambassador Danny Danon to the United Nations spoke to reporters on Friday talking about the very latest developments. Let's play those remarks out right now.
Good morning. The radical Islamist regime in Tehran continues to fire missiles and drones indiscriminately across our region. Their strikes are not just targeted at Israel, they are targeting their neighbors, the UAE, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, Oman, Iraq, Jordan. Just this morning, Azerbaijan, one drone struck an airport terminal, another fell beside a school. And beyond their immediate neighbors, other UN member states have been targeted. Earlier this week, Cyprus, a member of the EU, was attacked. Yesterday, an Iranian missile crossed the region and was intercepted above Turkey, a NATO member, before being shot down. More than 780 missiles fired. More than 1,600 drones launched. 6 days, 13 countries. Iran has struck more Arab countries than Israel has in its entire existence. This is a regime going down and trying to set the entire region on fire as it falls. It will not work. To the people of Israel, to our neighbors in the region, and to the Iranian people who are paying a price for this regime's recklessness, be patient. We are advancing. It is only a matter of time before the rocket fire is minimized and their capabilities are dismantled. Every day, their capabilities shrink. Every hour, we, together with the US, degrade, destroy, and dismantle their launch sites and stockpiles. The volume of missiles they are firing is already falling, and we are only 6 days in. They are getting weaker and weaker. Desperation, let us be absolutely clear about what we are witnessing. In one side, a radical Islamist terrorist regime firing at civilian population centers. On the other side, Israel and the US striking military infrastructure with precision. We target missile launchers, we target command centers, we target terror. We do not target civilians. They do. That is the main difference. Yet from this very podium, the Iranian regime's representative stood here and tried to sell you fairy tales. He said, and allow me to quote him directly, "We target only military objectives." That's what he said. We do not target civilians. We do not target the interests of neighboring states. Mr. Iravani, that is not just inaccurate, it is a deliberate lie. Look at the past 5 days. In the UAE, missiles hit Dubai and Abu Dhabi airports. In Bahrain, drones struck hotels and homes in Manama. In Kuwait, civilian sites were hit. And in Israel, ballistic missiles tore into neighborhoods. Children were killed. Iranian fire is all over. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Iraq, and now Azerbaijan. Home, hotels, airports. That is not military targeting. That is indiscriminate aggression. You know, sometimes in times like these, people can get overwhelmed by the reports, by the headlines. A few are even asking, was the threat really all that serious? So let me make it clear. This is what we are facing. This is the engine and the wing of an Iranian Shahed 136 attack drone acquired by the watchdog United Against Nuclear Iran. Not a prop, not a toy, a weapon. Look at the wing, built to travel thousands of miles across borders. It can reach cities in Israel, in Europe, and in a few months, even the US, carrying more than 100 pounds of explosives. Now imagine it aimed at your house, at your living room, at your child's bedroom. This is the terror we are facing. When we say missiles and drones, it can sound so distant. It is not distant. That is why we are acting. You do not wait for a regime that fires at airports, hotels, and homes to place nuclear warheads on its ballistic missiles. You do not gamble with your survival. We are only 6 days into this operation, and we have seen so many drones, so many missiles. But everything is severely degraded. This is what happens when the US and Israel act together. An extraordinary combination of unmatched power exercised with precision and resolve. A radical Islamist regime that believed it could intimidate the region with all those weapons is discovering otherwise. It cannot. And this effort is far from over. I want to remind you, our objectives are clear. No nuclear weapon, no ballistic missile program, no naval threat, no terror proxies operating across the region. We will dismantle them. We will finish this job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. It's Pamela Falk from U.S. News and World Report. How worried is Israel about the threats to global energy and oil supplies, particularly in the Strait of Hormuz? Thank you.
Well, I think we all have to pay attention to what the Iranians are trying to do. They use those drones, and we have to admit, they produced thousands of drones and ballistic missiles in order to affect the world economy. You know, when we look at the markets, we see that they are failing. But I think President Trump was very clear about it, that the U.S., with the support of other countries, will ensure that the straits will be open. And as I said earlier, we need to be patient. Give us a few more days. You know, today when the people of Iran are looking at the skies, they see our aircrafts. They see the American aircraft. Give us a few more days. It will be much, much harder for the Iranian to disrupt the vessels coming through the Strait of Hormuz.
Thank you. Maria.
With Iran International. Reports indicates that Mojtaba Khamenei is going to be the next leader of Iran. Do you have any opinion on that? And also you said Iran is already reducing its ballistic missiles and attacks and losing its basically power in the war. Do you think that's a tactic, or it's really the Islamic Republic not having enough missiles to fire anymore?
So I will start with the second part. It's not a tactic, it's reality. You know, the hundreds of attacks against the missile launchers, against the infrastructure of terror, we see the results. So if you saw at the beginning of the war around 100 missiles landing in Israel, today you're talking about maybe 20. So I'm sure we will see that going to that direction, not because they decided to, because they don't have the ability to do that. Regarding the name you mentioned, we will find and hunt down whoever is plotting against Israel. I don't care what will be his name, who was his father, we will hunt him down. And I think they know it in the leadership in Iran today.
Mr. Ambassador, so this morning Israel told the people of the Dahya in Beirut to leave the section, and so what's the object there? Secondly, at the same time, another Iranian proxy, the Houthis, are sitting quiet. How do you make? What do you think of the difference there?
Well, first, I addressed the issue of Lebanon yesterday, and we said very clearly to the Lebanese government that they have to take action against Hezbollah. I have to give the credit for what they are saying. They have issued very strong, bold statements, but they have to take action against Hezbollah. And I think our message is very clear. We will find the operatives of Hezbollah and the Iranian regime representatives in Lebanon, and we will eliminate them. We are trying to minimize civilian casualties. That's why we give the heads up to civilians to move away from the facilities of Hezbollah in the region. Regarding your second question, we have no conflict with many of the countries or militias in the region. But if Israel will be attacked, we will use all of our power to defend ourselves.
Yeah, Mr. Ambassador, what case would you make to the American people who are skeptical of this war that it's beneficial to America in the long term? I know Trump was almost assassinated by the Iranian regime. What other argument would you make to the American people why it's worth us intervening?
I think they should look at the actions of the regime in the last 47 years and analyze it. What they said, what they did, the attacks against the U.S. military compounds in Lebanon, the attacks against President Trump that you mentioned, and understand that it has nothing to do with what the U.S. will do or will not do. It's pure hate. There is no border between the U.S. and Iran. There is no conflict. But still you will see the Iranian regime chanting against the American people. It's radicalism, hate. You have to confront it. You can delay it, but at the end of the day, it will come to your shores.
We have time for just 2 questions.
Linda. Ambassador Linda Fasulo, NPR. My question has to do with Hamas as a proxy. Are there any indications that Hamas plans anything or getting involved? And secondly, have any of the Gulf states been in touch with Israel about the war?
So regarding the second question, I will not elaborate, but we share our know-how and intelligence with whoever wants that support. And today, when you see what's happened in the streets of Riyadh, Abu Dhabi, Manama, and other cities in the Gulf, very similar to what we are facing in Israel. So we share the same enemy as we speak. Your first question was about Hamas. I don't think Hamas has the capabilities today to attack Israel. So, and we fought for 2 years. We degraded their capabilities. It would be a grave mistake to start something with Israel today. I think they know it. But even if they will try to, their capabilities are minimized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Edith Lederer from the Associated Press. This war has now involved at least 10 other countries, and calls have been escalating for an end to the conflict and diplomatic negotiations to resume, to end it. Does Israel support diplomatic efforts to bring this war to an end?
I think diplomacy will come into action. Not yet. Not yet. We have to finish the job. We have to dismantle the machine of terror that they built for so many years. It will not last forever. It will not be months. It will be weeks or days. But we need to continue. We need to continue to hammer, to dismantle the capabilities, and then, to use diplomacy to ensure that they are not doing the same. Because if the regime will continue, it's only a matter of years until we're going to be in the same place talking about another attack against the regime. So we have to build a stronger mechanism. We are all familiar with the JCPOA, which failed, and with the negotiations. So we're going to have to install real effective mechanisms that will prevent Iran from becoming a threat. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Final question, Ambassador Adla Massoud, the National. With regards to Lebanon, is Israel planning a ground offensive like in 1982?
So, we have no desire to engage in any military operation. But when we see that Hezbollah is sending rockets into Israel from Lebanon, saying they want to avenge the death of Ayatollah Khamenei, and the Lebanese government is not capable of blocking them, then we have to step in. So we will do whatever is necessary from the air, from the ground, from the sea, but we have no desire to do that. And I think it's still not too late. I think the Lebanese government can still stop the escalation, put more pressure on Hezbollah, and tell them, don't drag Lebanon into it. If you want to go fight against Israel, don't use Lebanon as a launching pad against Israel. So it's not too late, but we are. We also saw the signs of Hezbollah preparing for escalation. So we put more troops on the border to prevent any invasion, especially after October 7th. So yes, we have more presence on the northern border today, and we take positions in order to make sure that we will not be caught by surprise. Thank you very much. They will stay for a few minutes.
So that was the very latest from the UN Israeli ambassador Danny Danon as he was speaking on the Iran conflict. I did want to share this live look with you. This is a U.S. Air Force plane that has landed in the United Kingdom, and we're continuing to follow this live look here as more U.S. Air Force planes have landed at RAF Fairford in the United Kingdom. 2 more planes actually have landed after the United Kingdom has allowed the U.S. to use its bases to take part in defensive operations in Iran. So we did want to share this live look from the United Kingdom. As you can see, a U.S. Air Force plane has now landed at RAF Fairford. Any additional updates, we of course will bring that to you as we continue to follow all developments in the ongoing conflict with Iran. We are going to just step away for a moment. Any significant developments, you can count on Live Now from Fox to bring that to you as we are taking a live look at a U.S. Air Force plane that has landed in the United Kingdom after the UK has allowed the U.S. to use its bases to take part in defensive operations in Iran. Much more to come. Stay with us. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinu. If you're just joining us at this hour, I did want to share this live look from the United Kingdom as we are continuing to follow all of the developments in the conflict in Iran. This as more U.S. Air Force planes have landed at an airfield in the United Kingdom after the United Kingdom has allowed the United States to use its bases to take part in defensive operations in Iran. So this is a live look at one of the U.S. Air Force planes that has now landed at RAF Fairford in the United Kingdom. This comes as the United States continues to warn Americans in the Middle East to make plans to leave the region amid the ongoing conflict. And this is a social media post from the Assistant Secretary to Global Affairs, Dylan Johnson, saying, quote, since February 28th, over 32,000 American citizens have safely returned to the United States from the Middle East. These figures do not include the many Americans who have safely relocated to other countries or those who have departed the Middle East but are still in transit back to the United States. The Department of State has completed nearly 24 charter flights and has safely evacuated thousands of Americans from the Middle East. While commercial flight availability across the region continues to improve, Department of State charter flight and ground transport operations continue to ramp up as security conditions allow. At this time, more than half of American citizens who requested help departing turned down U.S. government-provided transportation options when contacted. Some American citizens wish to remain in the country, while others prefer an alternative departure option. Through the State Department's 24/7 task force, we have directly assisted over 19,000 Americans abroad, offering security guidance and travel assistance. American citizens in Oman, Kuwait, Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Israel in need of travel assistance should complete the crisis intake form. The State Department will continue to actively assist any American citizen who wishes to depart the Middle East to do so. Americans in the Middle East who need assistance can call the U.S. Department of State 24/7 at 1-202-501-4444. And if you'd like a larger look at that number, we're going to put it on your screen right now. Americans in the Middle East, this is the emergency assistance hotline that you can call 24 hours a day. 1-202-501-4444. You can also go to the Department of State's government website at step.state.gov. Another live look here at one of the U.S. Air Force planes that has now landed in the United Kingdom. This as the U.K. has opened up these bases to allow the United States to land these planes amid the ongoing Iran crisis. Now, right before the break, we were sharing with you the very latest statement from the Israeli ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon. Meantime, the Iranian representative also spoke at the United Nations about the ongoing conflict. We'll play out those remarks for you right now.
Good afternoon, everybody. In the name of God, the Compassionate and Merciful, I wish to provide a brief update on the deliberate, unprovoked, and unlawful war of aggression launched by the United States and the Israeli regime against the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Today marks the 7th consecutive day of this large-scale military aggression, which began on 28 February. The United States and Israeli regime continue their brutal and massive attack against Iran and the Iranian people unabatedly and without pause. These attacks are indiscriminate. They deliberately target civilians and civilian infrastructure across my country. The United States and Israel have demonstrated that they recognize no red line in committing their crimes. Iranian cities are being attacked indiscriminately. Densely populated residential area and critical civilian infrastructure are deliberately targeted. These acts constitute clear war crimes and crime against humanity. Yesterday, the United States Secretary of War openly admitted that the United States is using 500, 1,000 and 2,000 pounds bomb with massive destructive power against Iranian cities. They are dropping 2,000-pound bomb in densely populated civilian areas. Their intention is clear: to terrorize civilians, massacre innocent people, and cause maximum destruction and suffering. Their claims that they have targeted only military objectives is a lie and baseless. The facts on the ground prove otherwise. Despite our repeated communication to the Security Council calling for an immediate halt to this criminal war, the Council has remained silent. It has chosen to turn a blind eye to these grave violations, despite its primary responsibility under the Charter of the United Nations to maintain international peace and security. According to the latest report of the Iranian Red Crescent Society, at least 1,332 civilians, including women and children, have lost their lives so far. Thousands more have been injured, and the number continues to rise. Airports, schools, hospitals, healthcare centers, residential buildings, sport facilities, mosques, diplomatic police headquarters, and other civilian infrastructure have been deliberately targeted and destroyed. On the first day of aggression, a girls' elementary school in Minneapolis in southern Iran was struck. 175 schoolgirls were martyred in that attack. More than half of the victims could only be identified through DNA testing. So far, more than 180 Iranian children across the country have lost their lives as a result of this criminal war waged by the United States and the Israeli regime. Many more have been also injured. More than 20 schools have been damaged. Hospitals, Red Crescent facilities, and emergency response centers have also been repeatedly targeted. Till now, 13 healthcare facilities have been attacked. Yesterday, several civilian sports and recreational facilities in Tehran and other cities were deliberately targeted. The Azadi Stadium and large parts of the Azadi Sport Complex were destroyed. The Besat Sport Complex and the National Judo Team training camp were also heavily damaged. Israeli missile strike further hit several municipal recreational facilities in southern Tehran, including the Azadegan Water Park, a stadium, and a sports hall. The municipality building also struck. In another attack, a sport hall in Lamard, Fars province, was bombed with female volleyball players were training inside. More than 18 female athletes were martyred and around 100 others were injured. Many Iranian athletes, including internationally recognized competitors in wrestling, judo, and taekwondo, have been martyred in those attacks. Sports and recreational facilities are civilians' objects protected under international humanitarian law. The deliberate targeting constitutes a war crime. Despite its constant claims of defending freedom of navigation, the United States committed a dangerous act of aggression at sea on 4th of March, nearly 2,000 miles from Iran's shore. The Iranian frigate Dena, which was on the goodwill visit and upon invitation was with the Indian Navy and carrying around 130 sailors, was attacked in international waters. Nearly 100 Iranian sailors were martyred. The U.S. committed a war crime. This heinous and unlawful attack constitutes a grave violation of the law and the fundamental principle of freedom of navigation. We reiterate our call on the Security Council and Secretary General to condemn the aggression, war crimes, and crime against humanity that are being committed by the United States and the Israeli regime against our people, to force the aggressor to put an immediate end to all crimes and military attack against Iran and against civilian and civilian infrastructure, to ensure accountability for these grave violations of international humanitarian law and war crimes. We continue to exercise our inherent right to self-defense under Article 51 of the Charter of the United Nations until this aggression and this barbaric attack stop. Our response is lawful, necessary, and proportionate. Let me emphasize once again, Iran targets only the military objectives of the aggressors. We don't target civilians. We don't target the interests of neighboring states. We are currently investigating the allegation regarding a strike on non-military sites. Our initial assessment indicates that some of these incidents may have resulted from the interceptions or interference by the United States defense system, which could have diverted from intended military targets. Under international law, every state has a clear obligation not to allow its territory to be used for acts of aggression against another state. Iran does not seek war. Iran does not seek escalation, but Iran will never surrender its sovereignty. Our ancient and proud civilization testifies that Iran has always been a peaceful, peace-loving nation committed to coexistence, dignity, and respect among nations. We will take all necessary measures to defend our people, our territory, and our independence. The alleged statement by the President of the United States regarding the election of a new supreme leader in Iran constitute a clear violation of the principles of non-interference in the internal affairs of states as enshrined in the Charter of the United Nations. Iran is a sovereign and independent state. It does not accept and will never allow any foreign power to interfere in its internal affairs. Our constitution is clear. The selection of Iran's leadership will take place strictly in accordance with our constitutional procedures and solely by the will of the Iranian people without any foreign interference. We call on all member states to condemn this aggression, war crimes, and take urgent action to stop this criminal war against the Iranian people, a war that poses a serious threat to regional and international peace and security. The Security Council must act now, firmly, clearly, and without delay. Failure to act will have catastrophic consequences. Today it is Iran. Tomorrow it could be any other member states. Thank you.
Those were the very latest remarks from the United Nations Iranian representative speaking to the reporters amid the ongoing conflict. I did want to share this live look with you. This is from Beirut, Lebanon, as we continue to see plumes of smoke rising from the skyline. This as Israel is continuing to target Hezbollah targets there in Lebanon. Hezbollah also retaliating against Israel. We are continuing to monitor all of these live looks as we do see developments underway at this hour. And we were hearing from the Iranian representative to the United Nations. This comes as the Iranian clerical body charged with choosing the next supreme leader could meet as soon as today to name a successor to Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was killed in an attack early in the conflict. Right now, no update on that specific development, but we are continuing to follow all angles. Before we head to break, I did want to share this live look with you of the White House. And after the break, I'm going to play out the very latest remarks from White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt as she was speaking about the Iranian conflict with reporters. That's coming up after the break. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinu. I did want to share this live look with you. We are expecting to hear from Senator Chuck Schumer as the partial government shutdown continues all over DHS funding. We're going to monitor this live look, listen in, and of course, bring you major remarks from this live event. But in the meantime, I did want to head back to the White House as White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt spoke with reporters about the conflict in Iran.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you out here. It's a busy day here, as you all know. The president will be meeting with defense contractors here at the White House in a few minutes with Secretary Hegseth. This is a pre-scheduled meeting, and the purpose of it is to talk about the president's aggressive and fierce support for rapidly increasing the ability of U.S. manufacturers to produce American-made weapons, which we know are the best in the world. The president signed an executive order on this earlier this year. This is a long-held policy objective of this administration, and so he'll be speaking directly with these defense contractors. But of course, as the president has maintained, we have more than enough ammunitions, weapons, stockpiles to achieve the objectives of Operation Epic Fury and beyond. After that, you'll be hearing from the president directly at 4 p.m. in the East Room at the College Sports Roundtable. We have coaches and we have scholars and we have athletes from around the country who will be joining. I know some lawmakers will be up there as well. President, again, a long-sought goal is to fix college sports, and so he'll be holding a roundtable to hear from all of these great people in the this afternoon, and you'll see him up there as well. Why don't we take a few questions? Sure.
Thank you very much. The president said that we're not going through all of this so that we can end up with another Khamenei, and he also said that we can keep this up forever. Does that mean that this current mentality in Iran remains in place? You're going to have to keep doing the fight.
I won't get ahead of the president on broadcasting any timelines. What I will tell you is what President Trump has already laid out, which is that the achievable objectives of Operation Epic Fury we expect to last about 4 to 6 weeks, and we are well on our way to achieving those objectives. Annihilating Iran's navy, we know that we've sunk more than 30 Iranian vessels and ships. Their navy has now been deemed combat ineffective. Taking out the ballistic missile threat that Iran posed to the United States and our troops and bases in the region, we have done a tremendous job. The United States military has done a tremendous job at achieving that objective thus far. Just 6 days in, the retaliatory ballistic missile strikes from Iran are now down 90%. Of course, ensuring Iran can never obtain a nuclear weapon as well, and significantly weakening their proxies in the region, which we know are responsible for the deaths of Americans. And we've seen Hezbollah and the Houthis hardly putting up a fight over the course of the last 6 days. Ultimately, the president has made it very clear he wants to take out the threat of Iran to the United States, and Operation Epic Fury is well on its way to doing that. As for the future of Iran, as the president has pointed to, of course it's in the best interests of the United States of America for Iran to no longer be led by a radical terrorist regime that chants death to America and is lying to the United States and the world about their secret ambitions to possess a nuclear bomb. President Trump does not want to see that. He wants to take an interest in pursuing who the next leader of the Iranian country is going to be, and that has yet to be seen, and the president is discussing it and deliberating it. Kristen.
You just said on Fox that it doesn't really matter if Russia is giving Iran information about military assets. Why doesn't it matter if U.S. military is put in danger by Russia, and is that what the president believes as well?
What I meant, Kristen, and thank you for giving me a chance to make it very clear, is that it clearly is not making a difference with respect to the military operations in Iran, because we are completely decimating them. As I said earlier, we've taken out nearly 30 of their ships. Their navy has been deemed combat ineffective. 90% reduction in ballistic missile retaliatory strikes against the United States and our Gulf Arab and partners in the region. So, of course, we are achieving the military objectives of this operation, and that is going to continue because the United States military is the best and most lethal fighting force in the world. Sure, go ahead, Benny.
Can you confirm if U.S. has taken full control over the airspace in Iran like it's been reported these past couple days? Trump said within hours, within days. Can you confirm anything along those lines?
Yes, we are well on our way to doing so.
Caroline, has the president's faith in Russia to cut a peace deal with Ukraine been shaken by the knowledge that Russia is apparently supplying intelligence to Iran in this conflict?
I think the president would say that peace is still an achievable objective with respect to the Russia-Ukraine war. You saw Special Envoy Witkoff put out a tweet yesterday announcing a new prisoner exchange between both Russia and Ukraine. So it's something this administration still wants to see, and something I know the president will continue to work on.
Has he expressed any frustration to Putin about this intelligence?
I'll let the president speak on that directly. Mary.
What does the president mean when he calls for unconditional surrender? Is he saying that the regime has to fully relinquish control?
What the president means is that when he, as commander-in-chief of the U.S. Armed Forces, determines that Iran no longer poses a threat to the United States of America and the goals of Operation Epic Fury has been fully realized, then Iran will essentially be in a place of unconditional surrender. Whether they say it themselves or not, frankly, they don't have a lot of people to say that for them, because the United States and the state of Israel have completely wiped out more than 50 leaders of the former terrorist regime, including the supreme leader himself.
Monica. Thank you, Caroline. The president had a July 4th deadline for the One Big Beautiful Bill. Does he see a deadline for the Save America Act, as I know that's a priority of his to get passed?
As soon as possible, I know the president would say. This is a huge priority for the president. It remains one. I know he has added on some priorities to the Save America Act in recent days, namely no transgender transition surgeries for minors. We are not going to tolerate the mutilation of young children in this country, and no men in women's sports. And the president putting all of these priorities together, it speaks to just how common sense they are. These are all common sense priorities of this president that are backed by the vast majority of Americans, and he wants Republicans to act on them as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Ken Paxton laid out some conditions yesterday, saying that he would drop out of the race if Senate leadership on the Republican side agreed to getting rid of the filibuster, for example. What are the president's thoughts on that?
I won't get ahead of the president on the Texas Senate race. I know it's of great interest to everyone. I'm no longer his political spokesperson. I'm a government spokesperson, so I'll let him speak on that directly.
You elaborated on the president's decision to tap Markwayne Mullin as the next DHS secretary. Can you talk a little bit about the rationale for the choice, why Mullin was the best candidate in his eyes, and also your message to congressional Democrats who continue to keep the DHS unfunded?
Yeah, well, Senator Markwayne Mullin has been a strong friend of the president and a big supporter of the president's immigration policies. Not only that, he's exceptionally talented, qualified, and I know well respected by his peers on Capitol Hill from both sides of the aisle. So we look forward to his expeditious confirmation, and I know the White House will be working with our counterparts in the Senate to make that happen as quickly as possible.
Caroline.
Thank you, Caroline. The president has said he wants to be involved in Iran's future. He has also called the son of Supreme Leader Khamenei a lightweight, and he has also said that United States strikes have taken out the potential candidates. So does the United States now have any candidates, or looking at candidates who may replace, who may lead Iran for the future?
I know there's a number of people that our intelligence agencies and the United States government are looking at, but I won't get any further on that. Sure.
Is the president satisfied with the pace of the investigation into whether the U.S. military did hit that Iranian school? Is the White House concerned that this was the United States?
Again, as I said at the briefing 2 days ago, I don't have any updates with respect to the investigation. I would expect those to come from the Pentagon. Sure, Haley.
That the U.S. was operating in the region of the school.
Again, I don't have any updates for you on the investigation. Those will come from the Pentagon directly. Haley.
Does the president believe Russia should face repercussion for providing intelligence to Iran as part of the U.S. military?
Again, I'll let the president speak on that directly.
Do you have any comment,
Sure.
Caroline, do you have any comment on the MAGA influencer divide on the Iran war? It seems like everything on X is everybody's going at each other. Any message to both sides of the aisle?
I would just remind people X is not real life. This president lives in the real world. And with respect to MAGA, President Trump is the leader of MAGA. He's the creator of the MAGA movement. And there is nothing more America first than taking out terrorists who have maimed and killed our own servicemen and women, who chant death to America and who pose a threat to the homeland. And so President Trump is a leader of the peace through strength foreign policy doctrine. He attempted peace through diplomacy exhaustively and extensively with the rogue Iranian regime. And so they have been struck with the strength and the sheer might and will of the United States States Armed Forces, and President Trump has proven he's a man of his word. If you go back and look, not just over the past year as president, but in his first term and in many years in his private life as well, when he has said that the Iranian regime can never obtain a nuclear bomb, well, now he's finally acting on it, and he has the courage to do what so many presidents in the past did not. We'll see you guys later.
That was the very latest from White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt as she was speaking outside of the White House. A live look on this Sunday of Capitol Hill. We are going to just step away for a brief moment. After that, though, we're going to check in with our Fox 5 DC's On the Hill team as they continue to follow all angles of the Iran conflict. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox as we take a live look on Capitol Hill. And for more on this, we do want to turn to Fox 5 DC's On the Hill team as they also continue to cover all angles of the Iran conflict.
It's Sunday, March 8th, 2026, and you're watching Fox 5's On the Hill. I'm Maureen Ume. Tom Fitzgerald is off today. Breaking this morning, the BBC reporting that Iran has elected a new supreme leader following a meeting of its assembly of experts. Ayatollah Khomeini was killed at the beginning of the war. A senior Iranian official has told state media that a leader had been chosen after an election without naming who had been selected. President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump attending a dignified transfer at Dover Air Force Base in Delaware this weekend. They joined the families of the 6 fallen soldiers as the flag-draped transfer cases returned to the U.S. The Pentagon says the soldiers were killed March 1st when an unmanned aircraft struck a command center. Chief Warrant Officer Robert Marzin was one of the soldiers who died last Sunday. He lived in Virginia but was originally from California. Well, we are hearing from President Trump now about the bombing of a school in Iran for the first time. Last week, an Iranian media reported that more than 100 children ages 7 to 12 were killed at a girls' primary school in southern Iran. Iranian officials have blamed the U.S. and Israel for the strike. Saturday on Air Force One, President Trump told reporters without citing specific evidence that he believes the deadly school strike was done by Iran.
No, in my opinion, based on what I've seen, that was done by Iran.
Is that true, Mr. Hegseth? It was Iran who did that?
We're certainly investigating.
Still investigating.
But the only side that targets civilians is Iran.
We think it was done by Iran. Because they're very inaccurate, as you know, with their munitions. They have no accuracy whatsoever. It was done by Iran.
President Trump also told reporters that as of now, there is no indication that Russia has provided any intel to Iranian forces. We're also hearing reports that an oil facility in Iran was hit. And for more on the war in Iran, I want to welcome Bart Jansen. He's the White House correspondent for USA Today. Thank you for being here. I just want to jump right in. Bring us up to speed. What is happening right now in Iran? We, of course, gave some of the headlines, but what is happening?
Well, the strikes continue at a punishing pace. After even these initial strikes that they're aiming to knock out missiles, drones, the Navy, they've claimed to have sunk or at least damaged 43 ships, and that the pace of the strikes, the intensity of the strikes is only going to increase.
Iran is proving more formidable than some people thought. Is the U.S. concerned about this becoming a more regional, widespread conflict?
Well, some of the regional countries would already say, hey, they're getting hit. The U.S. has said that these are just indiscriminate retaliation strikes where the missiles maybe aren't as well aimed, aren't as particular as some of the U.S. munitions. And so that has helped unify some of those neighboring countries who are allies of the U.S. and helping us. Those 6 U.S. casualties, of course, were in Kuwait at a command center.
Now, we're hearing from intelligence assessments that even large military campaigns might not actually topple the Iranian regime. Speak to that. Is that accurate? You know, and if so, what positions does that put the United States in?
Well, I think there's great skepticism that you could knock out the entire Iranian government just by airstrikes. Trump has said that he wants to unprecedented surrender from Iran.
What does that mean?
Well, in World War II, it meant that Japan gave over its government to be created by the U.S. But in this case, I think it just means that they want to help control what is the new leadership of the country in a similar vein to what they've done in Venezuela.
Reporting this morning that they've named a new supreme leader.
Yes, but Trump has said that he wants a hand in maybe not selecting the person, but approving the new leader, again, as they did in Venezuela, to ensure that, as he says, they don't have to go back in 6 months to try to thwart an Iranian nuclear program in the future.
The schoolgirls, the school that was attacked, you heard President Trump's comments on that. What do you make of it?
Well, it's interesting that they'd say that Iran would bomb its own school full of children, but the school was next to an Iranian military facility, and reporting so far has been the suspicion that it was a U.S. munition, but it is being investigated. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has not said in more detail what happened. Let's
talk about the financial picture that this war is taking the toll. You know, it's costing billions of dollars, millions at least, if not billions eventually. Talk about the toll of the war from an economic standpoint.
Yeah, the Center for Strategic and International Studies has estimated that the war is costing nearly $1 billion a day. I think President Trump would say that whatever it costs, it's worth wiping out this nuclear threat and just taking care of it once and for all. But it has also led to side effects such as rising gas prices, inflation. The Standard & Poor's went down 2%, wiping out gains for the year. So he says these will be short-term speed bumps in creating a better future. But at this point, the costs are rising.
Indeed, they are. Last question here. Is there a path at all to diplomacy that you see?
Well, they said that they would keep the door open for diplomatic talks, but they were deeply skeptical. They thought Iran was just stalling to try to build up its munitions, build up its defensive shield for its nuclear program. And so they basically got fed up and said, now we're going to have to go the military route. So they would say probably the diplomatic route remains open, but I think only after, as Trump has said, he wants a much more forceful surrender, just not potentially fighting back in the future.
All right. Bart Jansen, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thanks for having me.
White House correspondent with USA Today. And coming up, we're going to talk with a foreign policy expert from Brookings about who is in charge in Iran. Fox 5's On the Hill. We'll be right back after this break. It is day 9 since the U.S. and Israel attacked Iran and killed its supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. President Trump calls for an unconditional surrender from Iran's leadership. Iran's president rejects that call. News of that as a new leader in Iran will be chosen soon. We get word this morning that in fact has happened. Michael O'Hanlon is a foreign policy expert and senior fellow with Brookings, and he's also the author of dozens of books. His latest is To Dare Mighty Things. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I want to start with the leadership, hearing that they have selected a new leader. What do you make of that? Do we have any intel about who this person might be?
Well, we can only guess. The names that have been tossed around include Larijani, who's been this effective leader for the last few days and who just promised retaliation and vengeance and no unconditional surrender. And then also the son of Ayatollah Khamenei, who's considered, I think, a hardliner. And most of the other people who are plausible successors are also in that category. So those are the best guesses I can come up with. We'll find out soon enough. The bottom line is I think Israel's going to keep targeting this new person, and the new person is unlikely to be very different from the old person.
Yeah.
And the question would be, what does Iran mean by retaliation beyond what it's already doing with the missiles and drones? And then, of course, can we start talking to any part of this regime at some point? And would we even want to? But those are the unresolved questions. I don't think we have any idea where this is going.
President Trump has called for the unconditional surrender, and I asked our last guest, what exactly does that mean? You know, in this particular instance, what do you make of it? What do you think it means?
Well, you know, you could take it literally, in which case anybody associated with the regime should turn themselves over to some other kind of authority. Exactly who that would be, we don't know. We're not planning to put forces on the ground as far as I know at the moment. And the other way to think about it is just a complete repudiation of the previous ideology where some of the people could stay. And that gives President Trump an ability to walk this back a little. If he got some semi-reformist leader who came out of the regime and said, okay, I'll do a nuclear deal on your terms, and then maybe told a few white lies about reducing Iran's role in terrorism, maybe you could imagine a deal. The reason I talk that way is because, again, we're not planning to put forces on the ground. I don't know how you get rid of a regime that's had 47 years to entrench itself with air power and rhetoric. And so I think we may have a moment of decision coming in the weeks ahead.
So the question, who is in charge right now?
Well, this guy Larijani, who's been a senior national security leader, and apparently the Ayatollah had sort of tapped him to be the interim leader if the Ayatollah were killed or if he were unavailable. Going back to the January protests, which led to Iran slaughtering thousands, if not tens of thousands of its own citizens. So there's no real doubt here that President Trump's right about the nature of this regime and that it would be excellent if we could get rid of it. The question is, do we really have those means?
So Iran has, of course, tried to fight back. Could they attack the U.S. in other ways that we're not looking at, perhaps, you know, from a cyber perspective, something like that? Could they potentially use those means to try to gain an advantage?
It's a good question. I think they will probably try that because they have before, and they have some capability in that regard. But I'm more worried about truck bombings and assassinations. I think that above and beyond the drone attacks, the missile attacks, they could look to, you know, cause some kind of direct payback or retaliation. And I think top officials in the U.S. government know that. They're going to have to be careful. They've already been under security protection. Some of the people who were in the chain of command when Qasem Soleimani was killed in January 2020, the terrorist mastermind who was killed in the first Trump administration by an American weapon. And so we've already had that worry about Iran trying to kill people on American soil, and I would not dismiss that.
And we're talking also, we have Russia and China potentially becoming involved. What is the risk of them becoming more involved with this war?
I think it's moderate because I don't think they want any part of it. You know, I mean, Russia's, yes, giving some targeting information to Iran, which is sort of payback for us giving intelligence support to Ukraine. But I don't think Russia wants to fight us. And I don't think they really want to support Iran that much. I mean, yes, they get drone technology from Iran, but by now they've also learned how to make those drones themselves, the Shahed drones that have been so important in the Ukraine war as well. So I don't expect China or Russia to really have Iran's back. I think they're a little too smart to, you know, to take on that kind of a hopeless cause.
Michael O'Hanlon, thank you so much for your insight this morning. Appreciate it.
Nice to be here.
At the Brookings Institute. Okay. And when we come back and continue, what is the political fallout from the war for both Democrats and Republicans? Our political panel, they're going to weigh in after this short break. The war in Iran is entering a second week, and the political fallout is being felt on many fronts, globally, politically, economically. The latest Fox News poll finds Americans are split evenly on support for the conflict in Iran, but a majority view Iran as a threat. David Goodfriend is a Democratic advisor and president of I Street Advocate. Keith Nahigian, is a Republican strategist and president of Nahigian Strategies. Thank you both for being here. Week 2, are we entering a more dangerous phase of the war? Either one of you could start us off.
Yes, it was dangerous to begin with. It's getting more dangerous as evidenced by increased conflicts in other countries. And what troubles me the most is when we hear about Russia providing intelligence to Iran that suggests that this is spilling well beyond the Middle East. It's dangerous as hell, and the president never sought advice and consent or anything from Congress. So we have really no idea what the plan is, and he can't articulate one. That makes it even more dangerous.
Do you agree?
Well, the threat numbers show that people really think it was a threat, and the fact that they are spraying missiles to all these different countries, I think it's 14 targets now, shows you that they were this close to really having a bigger problem. If those would have had nuclear weapons on them, we would have had a big problem on our hand. He doesn't need consent to go and take care of a threat that's going towards our base or our military, and that's what he did, just like every other president's done. We're talking about now hearing perhaps boots on the ground, and that does not seem to be popular. Polls have come out, people saying they don't think that America should have boots on the ground there. That's going to be a concern. Would you still say that he is within his right to do that if he escalates it in that way? Well, they're talking about boots on the ground to go in and get the nuclear uranium off and securing that. I think that would be important. So I think polls and military operation don't go together. I don't think the public really knows what all the facts are when they're doing those kind of polls, but I think they need to do whatever it takes to get this job done. Today we heard that Iran has perhaps designated a new supreme leader. We're not exactly sure who that is. In this happening now, what do you make of it? Do you see there being perhaps the war continuing on the path we've headed to? Do you perhaps see there might be some line to diplomacy at all? What do you make of this?
Remember when Dick Cheney said we were going to have $20 a barrel oil after Iraq? Well, I remember Donald Trump saying they'll crumble, this is going to end fast. The fact that the Iranians have named a new leader is just more evidence that the Trump administration has no earthly idea what they're doing. And I think when you ask, is this getting more dangerous? Yes, it's getting more dangerous because we clearly don't have a plan to have a smooth transition. And Trump says he will only accept full surrender. Well, how's that working? I mean, I don't think we're anywhere near an end game. We don't even know what the goal is. So again, our brave service members' lives are at stake. Our lives are at stake. We live in the Washington, D.C. area. Do you know how many soft targets, the metro, the buses? This is playing with fire and not getting authorization from Congress. That's a first for a military operation of this size. At least George Bush, he might have lied to us and said that there was an imminent threat of a weapon. He might have lied to us, but at least he tried to get Congress's approval. I'm seeing you itching to jump in here. Yeah, George Bush didn't get Congress's approval. They just got an authorization of war. That wasn't a declaration of war. Oh, I see. Wait. So the authorization is different from a declaration. Did Trump seek an authorization? I missed neither did Obama or Clinton or any of them. Did they ever have an invasion of a country of 90+ million to change the regime? No. No president has gone in at this level without any authorization, declaration, you name it, from Congress. That's not the fact. That's not the fact. And so with what we're seeing play out here is exactly what the American public is saying, right? Half saying that we have no authorization, others saying that he is within his right. Is there an off-ramp here? Do you see one? I think, first of all, going back to the men and women in harm's way have done an incredible job. I mean, the fact that we're just talking about this a week later and there hasn't been many casualties, the amount of sorties, just accidents happen in war, they've done an incredible job. I've been on aircraft carriers, and they're very, very dangerous. So it's an incredible work that they've done. The amount of targets they've taken out, I think it's going to be less dangerous going forward. I think the messaging of the White House has been very transparent on what the plan is going forward. All right, gentlemen, you stay put. We're going to take a quick break and come back right after this. We'll talk about some of the issues with the economy. We'll also talk about midterms, and we come right back. You're watching Fox 5's On the Hill.
And our thanks to Fox 5 DC's On the Hill team. I did want to share this live look from Beirut, Lebanon. As you can see, some of those smoke plumes coming up from the skyline right here. We are continuing to follow all of the developments as Iran says that it has hit a desalination plant in Bahrain. But this also comes as Iran's president is apologizing to neighboring nations for some of these attacks. Coming up after the break, we're going to be speaking with co-founder and CEO of the Chertoff Group, Chad Sweet. He's also former CIA and a former Department of Homeland Security chief of staff under former President George W. Bush. We're going to be breaking down all of the latest developments in just a moment. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinu. We are continuing to follow all developments as the conflict in Iran continues. And I wanted to show these two live looks to you. On the left-hand side of your screen, that is a live look from Beirut, Lebanon, as smoke plumes continue to rise from the skyline. On the right-hand side of your screen is a live look from Tel Aviv, Israel. The latest is this. The governments of Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates, as well as Bahrain, have reported Iranian drone attacks in their countries yesterday and earlier today, with a very large fire engulfing a government office block in Kuwait. Now, Kuwait's Interior Ministry said 2 of its officers were killed while performing duties. Meantime, Bahrain said that an Iranian drone attack caused material damage to a desalination plant through the country's electricity and water authority. As they said, the strike, though, did not disrupt water supplies. It was the very first time that an Arab country has said Iran targeted such a facility during the conflict. Yesterday, Iran said that a U.S. attack had struck a freshwater desalination plant in one of its areas, disrupting water supplies in 30 villages, calling it, quote, a dangerous move with grave consequences. All of this comes, though, as Iran's president apologized to neighboring nations and said Iran would stop its attacks unless it was hit first. The president also mocked President Trump's call for an unconditional surrender, dismissing it as, quote, a dream that they should take to their grave. President Trump has said Iran's president's apology and promise to stop attacking neighboring countries only comes because of the, quote, relentless U.S. and Israeli attack. He also called Iran a loser of the Middle East and said the regime will be hit very hard as a result of Iran's bad behavior. All of this comes after Iranian drone attacks damaged at least 3 Amazon Web Services data centers in the UAE and Bahrain, causing significant service disruptions. Iran targeted these facilities, labeling them legitimate targets due to the alleged support for U.S. military activities. The attacks resulted in physical damage, fires, and offline, impacting regional banking as well as other operations. To talk more on this, I do want to bring in co-founder and CEO of the Chertoff Group, Chad Sweet, also a former CIA and also a former Department of Homeland Security Chief of Staff under former President George W. Bush. And Chad, we appreciate you taking the time to join us here on Live Now from Fox.
Good to be with you.
So I did want to start off with the very latest attacks from Iran as it hit a desalination plant in Bahrain. We've seen a lot of these, so-called kinetic attacks where Iran has actually targeted physical buildings and locations, as well as previously the AWS locations as well. When we take a look at this, can you outline the significance of these attacks and the strategy behind them?
Yeah, I think history is going to record that March 2026 will go down as a very significant evolution in modern warfare. Why? Because it will record that for the first time ever, we saw a physical attack on a target of digital infrastructure. As you said before, they intentionally targeted AWS's data centers in Bahrain and in UAE. It was a strategic surgical attack in order to, as you said, knock out not only regional capability that is supporting the Gulf states who are assisting U.S. forces, but some of those facilities are also rumored to hold significant data related to Israeli military operations. And so it's important for us to step back and recognize that nothing's off limits for the Iranians. They have now crossed a line that history has not seen before. And it's also interesting because historically we have seen the Iranians, use a fairly, sophisticated level of cyber attacks, and that is one of their preferred weapons because it's the poor man's way of hitting, David versus Goliath. And right now, what we're seeing, though, I think, is that because both we and our Middle Eastern allies have, over the last several years, in response to Iranian low-level cyber attacks, we've actually hardened our systems. So what's happening now is it's actually harder to protect against some of these physical kinetic attacks. And we're seeing that not only in the data center area, we're seeing it as well, as you said, in the other critical infrastructures such as water and power.
So as the, technology continues to improve, it's interesting to your point is that Iran's now going back in time, so to speak, and targeting those physical locations that hub and house the data centers there as well. As we take a look forward, does this indicate to you, if at all, the future of Iran's retaliation strategy? Are they going to continue to go down this route, or do you think it's going to be a 1-2 punch and they're eventually going to switch over perhaps to some of these cyber attacks?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is in the cyber area, normally they would have done a lot more before now. And the fact that they haven't is a tell. It's showing that I think 2 points. One is, as I mentioned before, the collective hardening of our systems by our allies and frankly, the U.S. private sector as proving to be relatively resilient. It's very difficult to be 100% perfect because our defenses have to be right 100% of the time, and they only have to be right 1% of the time. So it's an asymmetric threat that's very difficult to defend. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see some successful Iranian attacks. I'm actually more surprised that we haven't seen any so far. We also know a few days, right before the attack itself, the United States and Israel used preemptive efforts to go ahead and reduce their ability to launch cyber attacks. What do I mean by that? They actually took down the Iranian internet to only about a 1% to 4% capability, which muted their ability to launch attacks. And so we are, I think, going to see, to your question, Stephanie, if they can't get in and use attacks, particularly on IoT, Internet of Things systems, these are industrial control systems that when they attack, it would basically lead to a physical degradation in these critical infrastructures, much the same way that the United States did in the Stuxnet attack when we took down the Iranian nuclear centrifuges without putting a single boot on the ground. When they can't do that through cyber, now they're using drones and ballistic missiles. Why? Because with drones, for example, if they hit the systems, create a fire, let's say in the AWS data center, they can actually trigger the fire suppression systems, which then release sprinklers and the water damage. So if they can't get the effect that they want through cyber and the kinetic consequence of that, then they're doing it through these physical means. And we're going to see more of that.
And Chad, I also wanted to talk about this. Iran's president actually apologizing to neighboring nations for these attacks. When we take a look at the political landscape of Iran, it's not just one group. There are different fractions among the country, and now there is a power vacuum because the supreme leader was killed along with 40 other top leaders. As we hear this apology from Iran's president to some of the neighboring nations in the Middle East that were under attack, what does this indicate to you?
It does indicate that they are in fact splintering, and I think if you look at the behaviors, it is bizarre. It looks almost schizophrenic. On the one hand, you hear there's outreach from the Iranians to start a dialogue to explore some sort of peace settlement or denouement or pause. And then on the other hand, you hear other voices saying we're going to fight to the death. We saw, as you said, the president reaching out and offering an olive branch and apologizing to the Gulf states for hitting them. And then within a matter of hours, we just saw the Bahraini salination plant attacked. And so why this schizophrenic behavior? Well, if you go back and look at it, the Iranians knew after a number of our attacks, including the nuclear attacks on Fordow and Natanz, that there was a chance that the United States or Israel or a combination could attempt a decapitation strike. And so a lot of governments will do what are called COOP-COG, or continuity of operations, continuity of government planning. When I was chief at Homeland, DHS is responsible for helping the United States government to do its continuity of government planning. We have very hardened facilities, and we have very robust plans in the event of an attack on the United States, especially post 9/11. What they recognized is that their facilities are not strong enough to withstand the likely capabilities of the United States and Israel. So what did they do? They have a thing called the Mosaic Plan, and this is basically a plan where they said if we get decapitated or disrupted at the top level, we will initiate Operation Mosaic, which means we're going to authorize various groups to now act autonomously. And that's what we're seeing right now to a degree, is the side effects of the Mosaic protocol. If you look at two examples, would be the Ministry of Intelligence and Security, the MOIS, versus the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. They're two very different actors. The MOIS, think of them as the spies. Think of the IRGC as the soldiers. The spies are a lot more engaged in diplomacy and intelligence. They're a little more subtle. They're the ones I suspect that were reaching out to try to get a denouement or figure out some way to de-escalate, while at the same time the IRGC, the soldiers, were actually escalating. They always engage in very highly aggressive, highly disruptive, asymmetric behavior, including attacking critical infrastructure. So this schizophrenia is actually a byproduct of both decapitating the top leadership and the implementation of the Mosaic protocol.
And as we see these different factions with opposing viewpoints, and messaging, there's also the X factor, which is the Iranian people, the civilians. And we've heard President Trump really encouraging the civilians to take advantage of this opportunity. This also comes as we've learned that Iran has chosen a new supreme leader, although they haven't actually shared a specific name. As we take a look at, the various messaging as well as the coming weeks, is there any indication as to who might currently hold the most power and whether that is actually going to last?
Yeah, I think it's, we've heard various rumors, including the son of the recently killed Ayatollah being in the lead. I think Trump has made it clear that the United States nor Israel would accept him as the next leader. However, what's interesting is if you step back and look at it, the 2 points: first, the people piece, and then what is the United States position, depending on what happens. if you look at it, the United States has gone in with Israel and they've mowed the lawn. They're taking out the top leadership. But what the administration is saying is that, look, if there's a change in leadership, that's good if they end up being more moderate or willing to, at least they don't have to agree with everything. This is sort of the Venezuela model, right, where Trump did not demand a total change of regime. If you look at it, Maduro, his second in command, Delcy, is now in the position, and the United States is working with her. So it's a very realpolitik view of the world, which is like, we have no permanent enemies, we have no permanent friends, we only have permanent interests. So as long as the next regime bends the knee and says, we won't pursue nuclear weapons, we won't pursue ballistic missiles that can hit Israel or the United States, and we're not going to continue to fund terrorism through proxy groups, there is a possibility that the United States could work with even some remnant of the IRGC and MOIS today. But they have to have this kind of very realistic view of what's acceptable. So there doesn't have to be regime change in the end in order for the administration to claim victory. What they've done is defang the capability of the Iranians to actually kinetically or even through cyber hit the United States. So that's very significant in terms of claiming a form of success. On the other hand, on the people's side, if the people rise up and they get suppressed, that's going to be very difficult for the administration to handle publicly. And then secondly, you have to look at the potential of the country to splinter, because there are multiple minority groups within the country that have different agendas. Some of them are basically backed by different neighbors. So you've got the Kurds, for example, and the Turks, and there's tensions there. There's other ethnic groups aligned with the Pakistanis. So you literally, and the Israelis over the years have fomented the desire of these groups to splinter or destabilize the central government in Tehran. So that's the scenario that would be ugly for the administration if there's a total splintering of Iran, where you get significant destabilization and any remnants of the nuclear program get, unfortunately, proliferated, where it becomes a threat either through dirty bombs or the making of some nuclear weapons separate from the Iranian central government. That's really the nightmare scenario that the administration has to worry about.
Right now, we're in day 9 of Operation Epic Fury, and we continue to see all of these developments. When you're talking about stabilization in the region, though, typically, as we take a look back, historically, as well as the geopolitical sphere that we're seeing in that region, from your viewpoint, from your expertise, what might that timeline look like in terms of when we might see a more permanent regime or leadership in that region?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. It's in the interest of the United States to get this over relatively soon and then have them stabilize. It's not in our interest to see this splinter, and certainly our allies in the Gulf region don't want that either. We're already seeing the consequences of destabilization in the Straits of Hormuz and the single largest increase in gas prices in 1 week in U.S. history. So where you might have a situation where there's some daylight between Israel and the United States, however, is we want to get this over relatively soon and we want things to settle down. The president, I think, is prepared to go longer if needed in order to make sure that the capabilities that threaten the United States are truly neutered. But you could see a daylight develop between Israel and the United States over your question about when do we want it to settle down and when can it hopefully settle down. What we are saying is that, hey, if they're neutered, we can probably, even if it's not someone we like, we can ultimately deal with them. The Israelis, though, they're dealing with a situation where over many decades they've had this violent Islamist extremism that is calling for their annihilation, and they may not see the moment of cessation of hostilities the same way as we do. They may say, look, we have to neuter it even further ideologically, not just physically or kinetically. And that's where, in the coming days, you watch for the possibility that the United States may start to pull back our forces from the region as long as oil is flowing through the Straits of Hormuz, and that we're not seeing overt attacks against our allies, while Israel continues to conduct at least some level, maybe even low intensity conflict to continue to do the ideological neutering of the Iranian leadership.
And Chad, you were also talking about Iran's proxies. That's the next topic that I do want to get to, because there is a concern here in the United States over possible domestic terror threats, from terrorist organizations, but also lone wolf attacks. All of this coming as President Trump has announced the replacement for DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. And I wanted to get your take on that. We're going to just step away just for a brief moment, and I wanted to bring you back as we take a look at this, because I have to imagine there might be some concerns over possible disruptions as the security level and the risk here in the United States is heightened. So we're going to get to all of that after this break. We'll be right back.